Chapter 10:51. It can't be. Old Tai and Old Qian looked at the brand-new robe and were speechless for a moment. From the time Wang Sheng said that he was going to give it to Old Thing Qian, they had only drunk half of the wine. It had not even been half an hour, and a brand-new robe was already delivered in front of them, especially when Wang Sheng never said what he was going to give, but Rosa actually delivered the robe first. Wasn't this efficiency too fast? So fast. Old Qian was also shocked. Wasn't Changshan Duke's residence too well prepared? It's not that we are fast, it's those grandmasters who are fast. Rosa smiled and explained. Those grandmasters have Old Qian's measurements in their heads. Now, with the help of the sewing machine, it's very fast to make a piece of clothing. Only then did Old Tai realize that he almost forgot that there was a magical sewing machine. The fine parts in the sewing machine were made by Old Tai. It was really amazing. Needless to ask, those grandmasters who sewed were definitely from the Celestial Workshop. They were very familiar with Qian's sourding, so they didn't need to measure his measurements and directly made it. Old Qian didn't stand on ceremony. He knew that Wang Sheng had plenty of gold coins here, so a robe was really nothing. Moreover, Wang Sheng had said before that he would give him something, and he had already nodded. He stood up and picked up the robe from the tray in Rosa's hands. Looking at Rosa, who was smiling sweetly in front of him, he couldn't help but look left and right, then ran into the room on the left to change into his old robe. Old Tai didn't follow in. His gaze was attracted by another thing on the tray in Rosa's hands. It was less than a foot long and looked like a wooden strip, but it wasn't. It seemed to be a few layers of wooden strips side by side. There was also some animal skin folded inside, but it was folded very neatly. For a moment, he couldn't tell what it was. This is what I planned to give Old Qian to play with. Wang Sheng smiled and extended his hand to make an inviting gesture to Old Tai. Old Tai, please take a look. Is it suitable? Reaching out, Old Tai picked up the long wooden strip from the tray. It was very light, but upon closer inspection, he discovered some clues. It wasn't a single long piece of wood, but rather a row. The inside of it was wrapped in a very thin piece of bee skin, and it was unknown what it was used for. The wooden strips on the outside were carved with very fine patterns. The wood should be pretty good, and the carving should be very good. Elder Tai felt very comfortable when he held it in his hand, but he was a blacksmith, so he could not name the wood. Looking at the smooth texture, it should be the work of an old man from the Linglong Pavilion. Open it like this. Rosa put down the tray and helped Elder Tai pull open the row of folded wooden strips. Only then did the whole thing slowly reveal itself. The folding fan. This was what Wang Sheng had thought of before he left. He had asked the great grandmaster of the Pavilion of Delicacy to make it, but he hadn't released it yet. This time, when he saw Elder Qian fiddling with a brush handle, he thought of this folding fan. Playing with a folding fan in one's hand was much more elegant than looking at it with a pen. What is this? Elder Qian looked at it over and over again. To him, this thing wasn't exquisite at all. The only thing that had a moving mechanism was the shaft at the bottom. What could such a fan-shaped thing be used for? A folding fan. Wang Sheng smiled and explained, when a scholar holds it in his hand, it will look very knowledgeable. As he spoke, Wang Sheng took the folding fan from Elder Tai's hand and waved it twice for Elder Tai to see. It's usually used to put on an act. When it's hot, it can also be used to cool down. After Wang Sheng fanned it twice, he handed it over to Elder Tai. However, before Old Tai could catch it, a figure suddenly appeared beside Old Tai. The figure stretched out his hand and snatched the folding fan away from Old Tai. It was Elder Qian, who had already changed his clothes. Wang Sheng was also shocked. Although he had already heard Elder Qian change his clothes and walk out the door, that was only at the door. He didn't expect that in the next moment, Elder Qian's figure would already appear beside Elder Tai. At such a distance, he appeared almost instantly. This identity was almost the same as the figure Wang Sheng saw in Carefree City back then. Good stuff. Elder Qian held the folding fan. He first imitated Wang Sheng and fanned it a few times. It felt very smooth. Then he slowly folded it back like how Rosa opened it. He opened it again and fanned it again. It felt very smooth. It's made of ironwood. Good stuff. When he folded it again, Elder Qian held the folding fan up and down. With just a few glances, he said the material used for the fan frame. This is the skin of an 8-star reindeer. It is so thin, soft, and tough. It should be the work of old Xiao. Old Qian immediately told him the material of the fan. He even told him the person who had processed the animal skin. In fact, old Xiao was the leather goods grandmaster who processed it. The carving outside is old cheese, right? After talking about the inside, Elder Qian continued to talk about the outside. This relief carving technique belongs to no one else but him. After looking at the whole thing again, he said with certainty, the changes on the ironwood should be less than half a year ago. This is a new product made half a year ago. His fingers nimbly turned a few times, and the folding fan spun a few round with Elder Qian's fingers. It was very neat. Elder Qian raised his head and asked Wang Sheng, "Duke, this old man is right? Although he had changed into a new robe, Elder Qian's appearance hadn't changed. He still looked slightly wretched. However, the way he spun the fan was abnormally nimble, which gave him some points. That's right. Wang Sheng smiled and nodded. Elder Qian, isn't this folding fan much better than that brush holder? Indeed. Elder Qian nodded very seriously. Why didn't you make it earlier? If you did, I wouldn't have spent all my money to buy that brush holder. It's the same. You wouldn't have bought the brush holder, but you would have spent all your money to buy this folding fan. Wang Sheng smiled and said, Elder Qian, try the array on it. Even the brush had an array on it, let alone the folding fan. Elder Qian injected his spirit energy into it and immediately activated the array on the folding fan. The folding fan was used by Wang Sheng for refined people to use. Of course, he still used the old array of the 4 treasures of the study. Once the array was activated, Elder Qian felt his whole body enter a calm and tranquil state. This effect was even stronger than the brush holder in his hand. Amazing. Elder Qian couldn't help but give a thumbs up. Thank you, Duke. I'll accept your folding fan. Duke, do you think I can make do with my skills to test that appraiser? That's a little interesting. Wang Sheng nodded. It's more or less like this. Let's go and take a look at those weapons. See what you think. Elder Tai, let's take a look too. Chapter 1052. Elder Tai was only here to introduce Elder Qian, but now that he heard that Wang Sheng wanted to see a batch of weapons, which happened to be his forte, Elder Tai nodded and followed Wang Sheng's invitation. The 500-year-old weapons were specially stored in a courtyard. Wang Sheng originally planned to send them to Qian Xinyuan soon, but before he could do so, Elder Qian came to take a look at them. There were guards guarding the courtyard. Seeing Wang Sheng and Rosa bring Elder Tai and another wretched old man over, the guards didn't say anything and opened the door. The moment they entered, they saw the weapons arranged in different categories on the ground. Elder Tai's eyes flashed with excitement when he saw so many weapons. As for Elder Qian, his eyes also lit up, but after a while, he couldn't help but curse. What a waste of resources! What a waste of resources! What's wrong? Wang Sheng didn't understand and asked hurriedly, What's wrong? Elder Qian didn't care whose territory this was and scolded. You put so many good things out in the open. Why didn't you set up a few protective formations? Elder Qian, tell me what's so good about these things. Wang Sheng didn't feel embarrassed at all from being scolded and asked with a smile. Those who could be friends with Elder Tai and the others definitely had some ability. These great grandmasters all had bad tempers, so those who shared the same bad tempers as them would definitely have the same bad tempers. Wang Sheng wasn't surprised at all. Look at this. Elder Qian casually picked up a tattered long saber from the ground and pointed at it to Wang Sheng. This saber is definitely made from the best materials from a few hundred years ago. It's the highest grade of health steel. Although it's not as good as it is now, it was definitely the most powerful weapon back then. Wang Sheng kept nodding as he listened. Even Elder Tai's attention was attracted by it. This is health steel? Isn't the method lost? It's health steel. Old Qian handed the long saber to Old Iron, letting him test the edge of the blade with his finger and feel the unique touch of the alloy steel. But there's no point in having it now. If it's lost, then so be it. But if you really want to study that period of history, it's still very useful. Old Iron stroked the chipped blade and flicked it from time to time. Listening to the sound it made, he seemed to be immersed in the study of metal. The style of that saber hilt is the style of the Northern Song Nation. Elder Qian continued. Their style of attack focuses on slashing, so the handle of the saber is slightly shorter. There are also a few grooves made according to the shape of the hand, allowing people to grasp the handle tightly, making it easier to attack. These weapons must have been placed in a protective formation, so they didn't rust at all. Old Qian pointed at the weapons on the ground and couldn't help but shake his head. If we continue to leave them like this, I'm afraid they will rust in a few months. This is only temporary storage. Once it is transported to Qian Xingyuan, there will be a special storage array. Wang Xing nodded. What Old Qian said made sense. Of course, he wasn't someone who couldn't accept advice, so he quickly explained. They have been stored for a long time. They probably haven't seen the light of day for a long time. Old Qian sniffled as if he was smelling the metal and other smells on it. They were packed in a hurry back then. Look, the bloodstains were not even washed off. After such a long time, the blood has probably seeped into the blade. That's good. This shows that these weapons have been used on the battlefield. Wang Sheng nodded and explained with a smile. The forging method is the ordinary triple forging method. Old Qian took the saber back from Old Iron's hand and pointed at the sharp part of the blade. When sharpening them, they used the riverbed rocks of the Hutuo River in the Song Nation. Those rocks are slightly rough, but they are oily. The sharpened edge is this kind of slanted light. Wang Xing didn't know if this was correct or not, so he looked at Old Iron. Old Iron had been nodding since earlier. Clearly, what Old Qian said was more or less the same. The Duke must be planning on selling these weapons. I heard about it too. After Old Qian finished looking, he turned to Wang Sheng. Don't repair this saber. Just leave these scars. I suggest using deerskin and snake oil that is at least 4-star and above to scrub it carefully. The light will be more reserved and stable. Together with an antique wolf skin scabbard and chicken wing wood as the base, the effect will be better. What a pity. It would be better if it were some older leather. Old Qian, I have quite a few older leather here. Wang Sheng rubbed his nose and said to Old Qian, I'm afraid I'll need Old Qian's help to think about the style of the antique scabbard. No problem. Old Qian agreed without hesitation. Just as he was about to continue looking, Wang Sheng stopped him. This way. Wang Sheng led Old Iron and Old Qian out of the small courtyard and into another one. In the second courtyard, however, it was filled with jewels and jewels. This time, Old Qian didn't say anything about wasting natural resources. He knew that Wang Sheng was only storing it temporarily and still had to move it to Qian Xingyuan. The storage space here was a bit lacking, so he didn't say anything. Amazing. Old Qian saw a jade bead bracelet the moment he entered. He picked it up and looked at it for a while before letting out a long sigh. This is the style of the Lin family back then. Look at this knot. Old Qian pointed at the knot on the bead bracelet. This is a typical Lin family technique. Thousands of knots. Most people can't tie this knot. Wang Xing wasn't surprised that Old Qian could tell that it was the Lin family's bead bracelet. If Old Qian couldn't tell, Wang Sheng would feel that Old Qian's reputation was undeserved. The polishing method of the jade beads is the method of Lu Qianshou from Jadeite Hall. The beads are not perfectly round, but oval. Old Qian took the beads and showed them to Wang Sheng. The jade is also good jade. This is a 10,000-year-old warm jade from Mount Song. Touch it and see if it's still warm. This string of beads is most suitable for women who are deficient in both qi and blood, especially women who are postpartum. After wearing it, it will be beneficial to the body without any harm. Once he started talking, Elder Qian couldn't stop talking. Wang Sheng and Old Tai waited for Old Qian to finish before looking at each other and laughing. Old Tai was really happy for his old friend. It seemed that he had really found a suitable profession for him. All of this seemed to be thanks to Duke Changsheng, Wang Sheng. Old Qian, let's go and read some more paintings. Wang Sheng also wanted to know what Old Qian didn't know, so he had already instructed Mei Er to prepare some paintings. They should be almost ready now. They were just waiting for Old Qian to go and take a look. Paintings? Old Qian was startled, then nodded. All right, let's go take a look. Let's see who has a good foundation and get him to help draw a fan and write a few words. Chapter 1053. Elder Qian, this is animal skin, not fine Qian paper. Wang Sheng reminded him with a smile. The animal skin fan was mainly made for durability and the needs of the formation. The paper now was not good enough to make the fan. I know. Elder Qian was holding the folding fan as he walked. He loved it so much that he couldn't put it down. When he heard Wang Sheng's reminder, he quickly replied, "You can write on animal skin too. At most, you can rewrite and redraw it every few years. It won't spoil anyway." Wang Sheng was speechless. People were using animal skin as erasable paper. What could you do? When they came to another independent courtyard, there were already more than 10 paintings prepared in the room. There was a large table in the middle of the room, and on it was an exquisite spring scenery painting. "Elder Qian, please." Wang Sheng extended his hand to Elder Qian. Elder Qian didn't decline. He walked to the center of the table and began to carefully observe the painting. "The paper is Qian Xingyuan's Qian paper. I won't mention it." Elder Qian recognized the spring scenery painting with one glance. However, he still added, 2 years ago. The ink is Li ink, and the smell is still very fresh. This painting was drawn for less than a year. Elder Qian could smell how long it had been drawn just from the smell of the ink. To be honest, Wang Sheng's nose was more sensitive than Elder Qian's. He could also smell the difference in the smell of the ink. However, Wang Sheng didn't have the ability to tell how long this smell had been drawn for. Spring scenery painting, tender willow branches, freehand brushwork of mountains and rivers, appropriate shades. Elder Qian shook his head and evaluated it. Then, he slowly made a judgment. "Look at this brush, and then look at the slightly exaggerated ink willow. This must be the work of Scholar Qin. Only he would draw this willow by the river in such a way. It must be an old man who hasn't given up on his love." There was a seal in the corner of the painting. However, this seal was covered by a few pieces of paper and wasn't visible. Elder Qian didn't lift it to look at it. After coming to this conclusion, he slowly lifted the seal and signature. As expected, the square seal and signature showed that this was Scholar Qin's handwriting. Wang Sheng gave Old Qian a thumbs up. Amazing! Old Tai wasn't interested in these paintings at all, but he could tell from the conversation between Wang Sheng and Old Qian that Qian Sourding's judgment was correct again. Rosa smiled and unrolled another scroll, but she left a part of the signature area for Qian Lao to identify. This time, Old Qian was still the same as the previous volume. He clearly described the characteristics of the picture, the technique, the brand of the paint, and then said the author's name. Finally, he opened the signature section and saw that it was indeed that person. The 3 paintings in a row all had the same result. Old Qian had a clear grasp of the characteristics of the scholars in the capital. He had to admit that this fellow was truly a freak. One had to know that before the jade plate Qian, who would have cared about the characteristics of the drawings. It could be said that Elder Qian was a natural appraiser. After looking at the 3 paintings, Rosa smiled and unrolled a piece of calligraphy. Big calligraphy. What surprised Wang Sheng was that it was actually big calligraphy in regular script. Regular script had only been popular for a few years. Now, all the scholars in the world liked this kind of square regular script. Everyone used their own calligraphy as a model. In a few years, a group of calligraphy experts had already emerged. These words are a little interesting. Old Qian looked at the 4 words that were unrolled and began to admire it. As he admired it, he commented, "The structure of the strokes is very neat, and the strength of the words is also there. Unfortunately, it's a little out of practice. The last bit of restraint is a little not so smooth, but overall, it's already the handwriting of a master." This should be Scholar Han's words. Old Qian expressed his own judgment. Only he dared to inscribe for Changshan Duke residence when he had a bad stroke. What a joke. It's written by the Grand Scholar himself. It's a good thing that you can't get even if you beg for it. Rosa smiled and explained. Then, she opened the seal at the back. It was really Scholar Han. After putting away this piece of calligraphy, Rosa opened another one in the blink of an eye. This was a square scroll with only one word on it. It was the word quiet. This word is still worth looking at. Old Qian looked at the word quiet. After praising it, he directly used the hand of a brush to hold the fan and then drew in the air. After writing the word quiet in the air stroke by stroke, he let out a long breath. At this time, Rosa noticed that when Old Qian wrote this word in the air, he held his breath. He didn't vent until he finished writing. It's done in one go, it's done in one go. It's quiet, but it contains the general trend of the world. Old Qian finally saw a word that was pleasing to his eyes. He seemed very happy and comfortable. It's impossible to write this word without 3 years of hard work. As far as I know, I'm afraid only one person can write this word, and only Changshan Duke residents can leave this piece of calligraphy. After shaking his head and judging for a long time, Old Qian said, "This is the word of the emperor, right?" Rosa looked at Old Qian and couldn't help but imitate Wang Sheng and give him a thumbs up. This insight was simply unparalleled. The word quiet was really written by the emperor. It was unknown when it was taken back by Mayer, and even Wang Sheng didn't know. But Old Qian could actually see the general trend of the world from the word quiet. This was a skill, and everyone couldn't help but admire it. Then Rosa took out another piece of calligraphy, unfolded it, and let Old Qian appreciate it. This piece of calligraphy was also a word. There was no inscription on it, only one lonely word, a neat Yong character. Looking at this word, Old Qian's gaze suddenly became extremely serious. His eyes seemed to be emitting light, and his whole body almost leaned on the table. It could be said that he was looking at it inch by inch. Rosa noticed that since Old Qian started looking at the first stroke, he didn't breathe anymore. He had been holding his breath, and his finger pressed on the top of the word, moving it inch by inch. Finally, Old Qian saw it from the beginning to the end. Huff! Old Qian almost vomited for half a minute. Then he closed his eyes, as if he was reminiscing. He held the folding fan in his hand and began to copy in the air. That feeling was like drinking a large bottle of iced beer on a hot day. It was refreshing from the inside out. This is a good example of calligraphy. After a long time, Old Qian opened his eyes and looked at the word Yong. It was as if he couldn't pull it out from his eyes. To be able to write something like this old man knows that there is no one else. Old Qian turned around and looked at Wang Sheng. He said excitedly, "I've seen the 3 sets of couplets from the 3 pure temple. Those words aren't perfect enough, but this word is simply the culmination of regular script and calligraphy. Duke, this is Duke's handwriting, right?" Chapter 1054. Is it Wang Sheng's calligraphy? Of course. It was obvious that this was Wang Sheng's calligraphy. This was the word Yong that Wang Sheng wrote when he was practicing calligraphy in the mansion. Wang Sheng couldn't help but admire Elder Qian. He could actually see the style of his calligraphy from the couplets of Sanqing Temple. How'd his eyes grow? Even if Wang Sheng had a pair of excellent eyesight, he didn't have the ability to see the characteristics of someone at a glance. This piece of calligraphy belongs to me. Elder Qian looked at the expressions of Wang Sheng and Rosa. How could he not see that the two had admitted it? He shouted happily and then took the initiative to grab it from Rosa. He quickly rolled it up. When Wang Sheng and Rosa reacted, the calligraphy had been put into Elder Qian's storage ring. Old Qian, is it true that as long as there are traces of something, you'll be able to tell the difference? Wang Sheng didn't mind. It was just a piece of calligraphy. Wang Sheng could write 100 pieces if he wanted to. What was the big deal about giving one to Elder Qian? But he had a question that he wanted to understand. So he quickly asked Elder Qian, "And Duke, it seems to be true when you say it like this." Elder Qian didn't realize his ability, but when Wang Sheng summarized it, it seemed to be true. Whether it was the Grand Secretaries, the Emperor, or Wang Sheng, he had seen what they had written before, so he could immediately associate and conclude it. Even the previous weapons and jewelry were the same. Elder Qian read a lot of miscellaneous books, went to a lot of places, and had a wide range of knowledge. If there was a similar thing, he could speculate a lot. He wasn't just an appraiser. He was simply a master of data analysis. Unfortunately, there was no big data for Elder Qian to analyze in this world. On Earth, he was definitely a senior antique connoisseur. However, Wang Sheng still wanted to give it a try and see where Elder Qian's limit was. Since Elder Qian could almost analyze the traceable things, what about the untraceable things? Elder Qian, take a look. What is this? As Wang Sheng spoke, he took out the Glock 17 from his storage ring and placed it on the table. He spun it and pushed it in front of Elder Qian. The Glock 17 had no bullets, and Wang Sheng never intended to make bullets in this world. The power of the pistol bullet was a little small now and was not suitable for combat. Wang Sheng kept the Glock 17 as a souvenir, a proof that he was once an Earthling. Not many people had seen this pistol before. Even if they had seen it, they wouldn't have told Old Qian. Hence, to Old Qian, you must be something untraceable. Old Qian's gaze became serious again. He reached out to pick up the Glock 17 and was stunned. Such a small thing was actually made of several different materials. He touched the sleeve, the trigger, and the surroundings before finally touching the handle of the gun. His brows furrowed, as if he was in a knot. Duke, can you demonstrate a little? This was obviously a tool that could be used, but Old Qian couldn't tell what it was for. With Wang Sheng in front of him, he didn't hesitate to ask Wang Sheng to demonstrate. Wang Sheng picked up the Glock 17, and with a few quick clicks, the gun was turned into a pile of parts and placed neatly on the table. After doing all this, Wang Shengkai made an inviting gesture and let Old Qian start. Be it Old Qian, Old Tai, or Rose, all of them watched as Wang Sheng disassembled the gun as though he was performing a magic trick. The movements were too fast, clean, and neat. Although Wang Sheng hadn't practiced for a long time, because of the improvement of his physical fitness, he could break down the movements more than twice as fast as he was on Earth. This material is rare. This time, Old Qian picked them up one by one. He looked at the sleeve, barrel, spring, trigger, and even the magazine. Old Qian, any one of these things would take you years to figure out. After looking at them, Old Qian didn't say anything to Wang Sheng. Instead, he shouted at Old Tai in surprise, "Every steel material is unprecedented." Old Tai was very interested in all these metal materials, but he didn't want to disturb Old Qian's appraisal. After hearing Old Qian's words, he looked at Wang Sheng. Seeing that Wang Sheng didn't have any objections, he picked up the spring and looked at it carefully. If I'm not wrong, this material is the best. Old Qian looked at them one by one, took out the barrel, and asked Wang Sheng, "Duke, am I right?" Wang Sheng nodded. The barrel had to withstand the huge pressure of the gunpowder, so of course, the best material had to be used. Relatively speaking, the sleeve and trigger didn't have that high of a requirement. Old Qian's guess was extremely accurate. Seeing that he guessed right, Old Qian smiled. However, with his goatee and thin face, he looked very wretched when he smiled. "I'm not sure what material this is." Old Qian picked up the gun handle again and asked with some doubt, "It's not metal, wood, stone, or earth." "Duke, can you explain it to me?" How could he explain it? Wang Sheng looked at the gun handle in Old Qian's hand with some difficulty. Engineering plastic. How could he explain this? How could he let a person who didn't even know rubber know what plastic was? What was a polymer material? Old Qian knew that Wang Sheng was in a difficult position, so he immediately helped Wang Sheng out. "Old Qian, you haven't said what this thing is used for." "Elder Qian, you haven't told me what this thing is used for." Rose, who was at the side, also changed the topic and asked Elder Qian, "I have a guess." Old Qian smiled, reached out, and inserted the folding fan in his right hand into the back of his collar. His hands began to move quickly. A light flashed in Wang Sheng's eyes. Old Qian's action turned out to be the reverse of his disassembly of the Glock 17. In other words, Old Qian actually reinstalled the gun that Wang Sheng disassembled. The process was exactly the same. The items were right, and the technique was right. Although his movements were a lot slower than Wang Sheng's, Wang Sheng believed that it was only because he wasn't familiar with it. As long as Old Qian had time to practice, he would definitely be able to do what Wang Sheng did. Kacha. In less than half a minute, Elder Qian had completely restored the Glock 17 after watching Wang Sheng dismantle it once. Holding the gun handle like Wang Sheng did just now, he placed his finger on the trigger guard in front. After thinking about it, Old Qian seemed to feel that there was a chance. He placed his finger on the trigger and aimed forward. Although it's cleaned up, there's still a faint smell of gunpowder. Old Qian turned to look at Wang Sheng and asked, "Duke, this should be a type of firearm that can fire projectiles from this tube to attack the enemy's weapon. Look, did I guess correctly?" Chapter 1055. Wang Sheng looked at Old Qian as if he was looking at Monster. After a while, he nodded and said, "That's right. Old Qian, you're a natural appraiser. If you don't do this, it would be a waste of your knowledge." Not only was he knowledgeable, but his memory was also amazing. He could correctly install a Glock 17 just by looking at Wang Sheng's movements. This was the first time he had seen a pistol. He didn't even know how a pistol fired, but he could guess that it was a firearm that shot bullets. No wonder he knew so many things. His abnormal memory played a huge role. It could even be compared to Wang Sheng's memory, which had been strengthened by his transmigration. There was no lack of monsters in this world. At this point, everyone no longer doubted Old Qian's ability to be an appraiser. Wang Sheng seriously hired Old Qian to be an appraiser and analyst for all of Changsheng Duke Residence's businesses. In the future, Mayer could get some analysis and guidance from Old Qian for all of her business activities. Old Qian readily agreed to be an appraiser. However, he didn't know what that analyst was. Old Qian immediately understood from Wang Sheng's simple think tank and didn't decline it either. Double salary. The treatment was amazing. Old Qian, who was dressed completely new, waved his folding fan and went straight to Qian Xunyuan. The weapons were all packed and would be sent to Qian Xunyuan very soon. Old Qian would take care of what needed to be done. After Rosa and Wang Sheng sent off Old Qian and Old Tai, Rosa returned and asked in confusion, "Duke, isn't it a bit rushed to give him such a high position?" "No rush. It's not rushed at all." Wang Sheng smiled and said to Rosa, "Master Lu sent me a piece of news. Old Qian is the only person other than me who can command all the grandmasters to willingly make things for him. If it wasn't for the fact that he's slightly lacking in temperament, I'm afraid he's also the only person who can command grandmaster musicians to perform for him." Hearing this, Rosa understood. It wouldn't be too much to give such a talented master a high salary. With Old Qian around, the business would only get better and better. Wang Sheng's mind was filled with countless wonderful ideas, but he was, after all, a generation away from this world. There was an absolute generation gap. With Old Qian as the lubricant, Wang Sheng's ideas would be more in line with this world after Old Qian's polishing. It would not cause a huge backlash. It would only be good for Wang Sheng's business in Beijing. He had finally settled the matter with the appraiser, and a highly skilled one at that. The weapons that he had brought back could finally see the light of day in a short period of time and be distributed as soon as possible. He believed that as long as the parties bought any random item and verified its age, they would be able to determine where those items came from. With the stimulation of these things, all parties would become more and more concerned about the core area of the Land of a Thousand Despair, and Wang Sheng's plan would be able to proceed more smoothly. That night, Master Yu brought all the great masters to the Royal Theater to perform for Wang Sheng, the royal family, and Laojun Temple. They announced to the public that the great masters had a new piece of music, so they needed Duke Changsheng and the others to verify and guide them to see if they could be used in future performances. Of course, Wang Sheng also took out two new pieces. One was the Jinghu song Deep Night, and the other was the modern song Golden Snake Wild Dance on Earth. Of these two pieces, one was suitable to arouse the cultivation atmosphere at the beginning, and the other was suitable to drive the cultivation rhythm at the climax. All the great masters who had seen the music and heard the performance were full of praise. In the evening, Beijing became popular again. More than 600 beauties from the newly renamed Grand View Garden, as well as the carefully selected guards from the royal family, Laojun Temple, and Duke Changsheng's residence, gathered at the Royal Theater. When the beauties from the Grand View Garden moved out, it caused a stir among almost everyone along the way. Someone almost wanted to attack the carriage that the women were in, but under the protection of the Imperial Guards, the women easily reached the Royal Theater. On the side of the royal family, The emperor and the empress arrived happily under the protection of the three great masters of the royal family. Not only that, there was also a large number of experts from the royal family. The Laojun Temple also had a big show, with the Grand Abbey Dean personally leading the team. The experts who had returned from the core area of the Land of a Thousand Despair, and a large number of old Taoists of the Qing generation, filled the royal theater. Wang Sheng naturally brought Mei Er and Rosa to attend. Old Taoist Ling Su and the Grand Abbey Dean were also present in the box. Before the performance, Wang Sheng specially went to the emperor's box to greet the emperor and exchange a few pleasantries. Before leaving, he had to exchange a few words with the three great masters. There will be another concert in 10 days' time, 2 in a row. I think it should be able to stimulate the cultivation of the three of you. Wang Sheng knew that the three great masters were actually on the verge of breaking through. They would definitely break through after 2 concerts, so Wang Sheng didn't mind selling them a favor at this time to increase their confidence. If there are some unreasonable things in the process, ignore them. The three great masters couldn't figure out what these unreasonable things Wang Sheng was talking about. Wang Sheng explained more clearly. Think about me. My origin soul is of an inferior grade, but what is my cultivation now? Think about yourselves. If you take another step forward, will there really be no other path ahead? Is there really an end to the path of cultivation? How could the 3 old eunuchs still not understand after being reminded to this extent? The 3 of them instantly became serious. Before this, they had always thought that they would reach a level that surpassed the old Taoist and perhaps touch the peak of cultivation. But now that Wang Sheng reminded them, they realized that they might reach an unprecedented and unimaginable realm in the next half a month. Another step forward? Was the electric discharge in the legendary peak not the end? Thinking about Wang Sheng's words and the super beast they saw in the core area of the Place of Thousand Despair, the 3 of them were filled with passion. At this time, they no longer thought about whether the secret of advancing the inferior origin soul that Wang Sheng sold was true or not. There was only a bit of fanaticism left in their minds. What was beyond the legendary peak realm? The 10th stage realm? The emperor and the empress were stunned. They were in the same box. How could they not hear Wang Sheng's words? There was a possibility of breaking through the legendary realm. If someone else said this, the emperor would definitely think that he was talking nonsense. However, Wang Sheng was different. Wang Sheng frequented the core region of the Lands of Thousand Extremities. The 3 great consecrators had also been there before. They had also seen incomparably powerful demonic beasts. Those were demonic beasts that were many times stronger than the 3 great consecrators back then. Could it be that those super beasts were not at the legendary peak realm, but at a higher realm? In the hearts of the 3 great masters, there was suddenly an indescribable confidence. The concert was about to start. Wouldn't they know later? Chapter 10:56. The concert began on time. Everyone welcomed the musical notes that drilled into their ears with a sense of anticipation. When the first song, Deep in the Night, began, old Taoist Ling Su suddenly asked Wang Sheng, "What did you say to those 3 guys? Why are their minds so shaken?" In the emperor's box, the 3 royal consecrators shielded the sounds in the box at the same time. Even the old Taoist Ling Su, who was close at hand, could not hear what was going on inside. At this moment, feeling the extraordinary turbulence of the 3, the old Taoist could not help but ask curiously, "Anyway, they're about to break through. I'll inform them in advance and do them a favor." Wang Sheng did not hide it from the old Taoist and answered directly. The old Taoist priest was rendered speechless. Wang Sheng had mastered this kind of favor that did not cost him anything. While they were talking, Mayor and Rosa were already attracted by the music and slowly got into the rhythm. Wang Sheng also began his own cultivation along with the music. Not long after practicing the 6 words formula with the rhythm of the music, Wang Sheng felt the turbulence of the 3 consecrators mentioned by the old Taoist. In the next room, 3 strong wills seemed to be struggling. Obviously, they had not broken free from the shackles of common sense from Wang Sheng's shocking reminder. Perhaps in the hearts of the royal experts, The old consecrator was only at the peak of the legendary realm. The goal they worked hard for was to reach and surpass the old consecrator. They knew their own cultivation. After completely converting the spiritual energy in their bodies into spiritual liquid, they would be at the peak. The problem was, with one sentence from Wang Sheng, it was almost obvious to them that there was still a way after reaching the peak. How could they accept this in an instant? It was inevitable that they would struggle. Wang Sheng did not care how they struggled. The key was that Wang Sheng had to receive enough benefits from his concert. For example, the women in the Grandview Garden had to be able to advance and break through. The group of experts in the Laojun Temple had to be able to advance and break through, and the guards and his residents had to be able to advance and break through. As for whether or not the experts of the imperial family could break through, perhaps those ordinary experts could, but it was hard to say for the three great consecrators. Fortunately, they still had another chance after 10 days. If they couldn't break free from the shackles of common sense in a short period of time, then 10 days was enough for them to think clearly. Of course, the most important benefit was that Wang Sheng would be able to gain a deeper understanding of the Daozong mantra from the experiences of so many old Taoists who cultivated the Daozong mantra. Advancing was secondary. Moreover, Wang Sheng had just advanced to the 8th-stage realm and completed the Black Snake transformation not too long ago, so it was impossible for him to complete the Yazi transformation in 1 or 2 concerts. The first to break through was, as expected, an expert from the Laojun Temple who had come from the core of the Land of Thousand Despair, followed by several beauties from the Grandview Garden. The breakthroughs of several experts were like throwing a spark into a sea of black gunpowder. Then a violent reaction was triggered crazily. The next batch was a few hundred experts who entered the process of advancing and breaking through the spiritual energy body tempering. There were beauties from the Grandview Garden, experts from the Laojun Temple, people from the imperial family, and guards from Wang Sheng's residence. A huge ball of spiritual qi formed once again. Wang Sheng was already prepared for this. He immersed his mind in it, using the 6-word formula to keep himself in the most clear-headed state. At the same time, he frantically absorbed the cultivation experience of the scripture of Tao. At the same time, he emptied his body, allowing the incomparably powerful spiritual qi to enter his body. Then, it was compressed and condensed by the circulation of the scripture of Tao 3 times in a row, storing it in each acupoint. The Grand Abbey Dean had been reminded by Wang Sheng, so this time he chose experts who cultivated the Daozong mantra and the pre-cultivation methods. Including those from Wang Sheng's residence, there were more than 100 people, including the Grand Abbey Dean and old Taoist Ling Su. Among them, Wang Sheng was like a thirsty man in a desert absorbing the rain. Of course, Wang Sheng would not unknowingly share his own experiences with others. At least when Wang Sheng was awake, he had already noticed the strange look that the old Taoist gave him several times. Others might not be able to discover the abnormality in Wang Sheng's cultivation, but under such circumstances, the old Taoist was able to clearly see the level of cultivation of almost every person who cultivated the scripture of the way. Old Taoist Ling Su could see through everyone in the Laojun Temple, including the Grand Abbey Dean. Only Wang Sheng would surprise him every time. This kind of uncontrollable situation was the reason why the old Taoist was pleasantly surprised. If everything in the world was unchanging, then what was the point of it? Wang Sheng had no time to pay attention to the old Taoist. Anyway, after the concert, the old Taoist would definitely ask about it in detail. At this time, Wang Sheng had to seize all the time to correct all the hidden dangers and possible deviations in the process of cultivating the Daozong mantra. At the same time, he combined the experience of so many seniors and the fighting consciousness of the little man to optimize the cultivation efficiency of the Daozong mantra. Once hundreds of people entered this state of advancement, the entire royal theater became a large mass of spiritual qi, as expected. Everyone was wrapped in it. Even if they did not advance, there would be a lot of benefits. Everyone understood this point, and all of them were focused on absorbing the benefits. They could not be bothered to pay attention to others, except for Wang Sheng and old Taoist Ling Su. 10 hours later, the large mass of spiritual qi was still going on. Everyone was tempering their bodies with spiritual qi. Wang Sheng found that the three old eunuchs in the private room next door seemed to have gradually weakened. The rhythm of their cultivation had been completely led by the rhythm of the music. This also meant that the three great priests might have chosen to believe in Wang Sheng after the conflict between common sense and the impossible after being reminded by Wang Sheng. The weaker the resistance, the deeper the degree of acceptance of Wang Sheng's words. After 15 hours, Wang Sheng almost did not feel any resistance. It was also at this time that the most powerful aura among the advancing experts successfully triggered the spiritual qi of heaven and earth to temper their bodies. The turbulent spiritual qi frantically joined the huge mass of spiritual qi in the royal theater. When there was one, there was another. The three great priests were almost one. In less than half an hour after the first one advanced, the second one also advanced. 10 minutes later, the third one also advanced. The spiritual qi of heaven and earth that the three great priests used to temper their bodies caused the mass of spiritual qi in the royal theater to reach its strongest state. Everyone was bathed in this dense mass of spiritual qi that was almost like a spiritual liquid, enjoying the joy of cultivation. Wang Sheng was also enjoying the comfort of the spiritual qi, nourishing and cleansing his whole body. At the same time, he was crazily absorbing the strongest cultivation experience. At the same time, he was practicing the 6-word formula. He almost forgot himself and did not notice that in his soul space, the handle of the Tiger Fong army knife was slowly becoming solid from illusion bit by bit. Chapter 1057. Because of the sudden advancement of the three great priests, the people who advanced this time were super lucky. The three experts at the peak of the legendary realm advanced to the 10th stage, and they broke through only 15 hours after the beginning of the advancement. This resulted in the body tempering time inexplicably being increased by 15 hours. That was not to mention the body tempering time of ordinary experts was only 1 day and 1 night. The more powerful ones, like the few 8-stage Taoist priests of the Laojun Temple, needed 2 days and 2 nights. However, the three great priests advanced to the 10th stage, and the body tempering time was directly increased by 3 days and 3 nights. In other words, in addition to the initial increase of 15 hours, they had at least 2 days and 2 nights of body tempering time out of thin air. This time was a big bargain. The longer the body tempering time, the greater the benefits gained during the advancement. This was common sense, and everyone knew it without having to subvert it. Why did the Grand Master's performance in the Royal Theater attract everyone like ducks? Apart from being able to guide the rhythm of cultivation and break through bottlenecks, this was what everyone was most looking forward to. This was because every time a large spiritual energy mass advanced, the time taken by the expert with the highest cultivation base was calculated. As long as there was a super expert among them who advanced, then everyone else would be in luck. This was a few times longer than the body tempering time that they should have enjoyed. This was enough to save the time of consolidating their cultivation base for the newly advanced experts. Not only would they have a solid foundation, they could even make use of this extra time to further their cultivation. Think about it. How would it feel to directly become an expert in the early stage to the middle stage of a new realm after completing the body tempering process with spiritual energy? Among them, Wang Sheng felt the happiest. In a total of 4 days and 4 nights, Wang Sheng had almost learned the cultivation experience of everyone who practiced the scripture of Taoism in the theater. Others could only sense it passively, driven by the large spiritual energy mass. How much they could sense depended on their own luck. However, it was different for Wang Sheng. Under the simultaneous practice of the 6-words formula, Wang Sheng maintained an unprecedented clarity of mind. Almost everyone's cultivation experience could be accurately captured by Wang Sheng. More than 100 people, what difficulties they had encountered during their cultivation, how they had solved them, and how they had improved. These were all good things that Wang Sheng could not even dream of. They were crazily stuffed into Wang Sheng's mind. The process of cultivation had never been smooth sailing, nor had it ever been the same. Even if you had successfully completed a week and day at the beginning of your cultivation, it did not mean that there would be no problems. Perhaps it would not be a problem to maintain the most orthodox cultivation posture, such as sitting cross-legged with palms, feet, and palms facing the sky. However, if one changed the posture, such as standing or lying down normally, it would immediately become impossible. Perhaps there wouldn't be any problems during normal cultivation, but once he started moving, there would be problems. There wouldn't be any problems with regular nourishment, but once the rhythm of the time was changed, problems would immediately arise. There were no problems with cultivation, but when it came to battle, problems arose. These were the thousands of difficult problems that could be encountered in the process of cultivation. Any one of these problems could cause a person who thought that he was proficient in cultivation to be stuck and unable to advance. If one was lucky, they could solve it in 10 days to half a month. If one was unlucky, there might not be any progress for half a year or even a year. If one was really unlucky, a small problem could cause him to vomit blood due to internal injuries. He might even suffer from chi deviation and die. Everyone could encounter countless normal, abnormal, and unimaginable problems on the path of cultivation. Perhaps everyone encountered different problems, but everyone had to face the same thing, and that was that they had to solve it. If they didn't solve it, they would not be able to continue cultivating. To Wang Sheng, the method and train of thought to solve the problem were invaluable experiences. More than 100 people were cultivating the same cultivation method. Wang Sheng might have encountered the problems they had encountered before, and there was a high chance that Wang Sheng would encounter the problems they had not encountered. At this time, the experience and train of thought to solve the problem in the past were the best solution. Even if the previous experience and train of thought could not be used, the calmness in the face of the problem was extremely important. Among the 100 over Taoist priests who cultivated the scripture of Taoism in Laojun Temple, at least half of them had higher or similar cultivation than Wang Sheng, but their cultivation time definitely exceeded Wang Sheng's. Even the youngest one with the lowest cultivation had cultivated for a few times longer than Wang Sheng. To be able to obtain a person's cultivation experience was a treasure. Not to mention that Wang Sheng had directly obtained more than 100 of them. It could be said that he had won the super lottery. Of course, the cultivation experience of these experts was indeed amazing. But what surprised Wang Sheng the most was the Grand Abbey Dean and old Taoist Ling Su. Needless to say, the Grand Abbey Dean was a 10th degree realm expert and the leader of Taoism. He had led the Laojun Temple for decades, and his status was now like the sun in the sky. Even in the cultivation experience that he shared, there was a dignified air about him. No matter what kind of cultivation difficulties he faced, he had a dignified attitude, but also had the flexibility to not stick to the means to solve it. In Wang Sheng's words, character determined fate. For the Grand Abbey Dean to be able to become the Grand Abbey Dean, he naturally had the spirit of a hero. This kind of cultivation experience was unique to the Grand Abbey Dean. Needless to say, old Taoist Ling Su was a 12th degree realm expert, an existence that could crush the whole world. His cultivation experience was different from the Grand Abbey Dean and the disciples and disciples of the Laojun Temple. Similarly, he was dignified, but had an irresistible drive. No matter what difficulties there were, he would overcome them with force. That kind of boldness made Wang Sheng admire him. The experience of these two people in cultivating the mausoleum of Taoism would definitely let Wang Sheng not have to worry about the mausoleum of Taoism for at least 30 years. Even in the future, when he increased the number of apertures and continued to strengthen the weekday cycle, there would definitely be no problems that could not be solved with the method of old Taoist Ling Su as a foundation. Although the masters of the Laojun Temple and the Grand Theater could vaguely sense some cultivation experience from the big mass of spiritual qi, their cultivation was far inferior to that of the Grand Abbey Dean and the old Taoist. Only the Taoists of the Qing generation could vaguely share some of it. The others had no chance at all. Only Wang Sheng would be able to extract it with a clear mind. Just this alone was enough for Wang Sheng to have profited greatly. After pondering over the cultivation experience of the Grand Abbey Dean and Old Taoist Ling Su for a whole day, Wang Sheng realized that there were a few inappropriate or unoptimized parts of his weekday cycle and quickly corrected them. Thanks to the spiritual energy controllability that he had trained in the core of the place of Thousand Despair of the heavy snow, Wang Sheng was able to quickly change the state of his cultivation in a short period of time. Otherwise, he would not be able to correct it without 10 days to half a month. Chapter 1058. Wang Sheng was not the only one who felt that he had gained a huge benefit. In fact, everyone present felt that they had gained a lot. Even though everyone was still enjoying the aftertaste of the large mass of spiritual energy and were somewhat involuntary, even so, the last bit of intelligence in their minds told themselves that they had gained a lot. Of course, there were also people who were unhappy, but it was a double feeling of happiness and unhappiness. Naturally, these were the grandmasters who were performing on stage. Because of the sudden breakthrough of the three great priests, the tempering time for the spiritual energy had been extended by a few days. The entire performance lasted more than 4 days and 4 nights. One had to know that the performance could not be stopped, so the grandmasters could only wait for the large mass of spiritual energy to disperse. Although the large mass of spiritual energy was also extremely beneficial to them, it was more than 4 days and 4 nights continuously, which was enough for them to work hard. If not for the fact that the grandmasters had all advanced to the legendary realm, they might not have been able to endure this performance. Although it was hard, the benefits were also great. Especially this time, there were 3 10th-degree experts, which was even more beneficial to them. When one reached the legendary realm, one's foresight would naturally improve. Other than the pursuit of music, these grandmasters would not completely abandon cultivation. Not to mention the new songs by Wang Sheng and the songs they had composed themselves, just the fact that there were such powerful experts to guide them. Even if it was tiring, they were willing to do it. The royal guards guarding outside felt the same way. They were happy and unhappy at the same time. Speaking of which, the royal guards were very dissatisfied with the situation of the royal theater for a few days. However, as long as they stood within 50 meters of the royal theater, the large mass of spiritual energy would always take care of them. It was just that they could not hear the music, so they could not drive the rhythm of cultivation. But just by bathing in a large mass of spiritual energy, the benefits were automatically sent to their bodies. Therefore, the soldiers on duty were more enthusiastic than anyone else when it came to maintaining order during the concert. The only thing they were unhappy about was that it was too long and too tiring. But after the tiredness, everyone realized that the effect of cultivating for a day here was equivalent to cultivating for a month elsewhere. No one would be unhappy, and they fought more fiercely than anyone else. Such a huge commotion at the Royal Theater definitely couldn't be hidden from the people in the capital. In fact, when the concert started, all the people in the capital received the news. The news was sent by Wang Sheng, informing all parties that there would be a concert in the Royal Grand Theater today to listen to new songs, so that everyone would not be surprised. The performance this time would not affect the official performance 10 days later. Moreover, the experts from all sides did not come over, so it was only the internal members of Duke Chongqing's residence who would listen to it. It would not involve the various forces. Although the explanation sounded nice, everyone knew that there would definitely be people from the temple of Lao Jun and the royal family among the people of Duke Chongqing's mansion. In addition, although it was said that they were listening to a new song, it was actually a formal performance. However, what everyone knew was something that no one could do anything about. Firstly, they did not want to delay the official performance. Secondly, Wang Sheng also said that the experts from all sides did not rush over. Even if they were given a chance, they could not do anything about it. Therefore, under such circumstances, even though they knew the whole story, they could only accept the reason given by Wang Sheng. It was a pity. However, the representatives from all sides in the capital had already made up their minds. After today, they would look for Wang Sheng to discuss this. In the future, even if they could not bring the experts from all sides to listen to new songs, they could at least bring the representatives from the capital, right? No one wanted to miss such a good opportunity. They had to find some benefits for themselves in the capital, right? Apart from this thought, the various parties also began to send letters back to their respective capitals. Should they consider leaving some experts in the capital who were waiting to advance? Otherwise, it would be a waste of an opportunity if they did not have the time to rush over. Moreover, the current situation in the capital was indeed different. Ever since Wang Sheng's few businesses opened, it could be said that it was too prosperous. Whether it was Qian Shinjuan Runzi Workshop, Dream Workshop, or even Yun, many people were waiting every day to see what new products these few businesses would release. Many people were waiting to learn from these few businesses' business ideas. No matter what the product was, as long as it was released by these few businesses, it would be a huge celebration for many people. It was unknown how many people specially sent people to buy it from the capital and sent it to various places. Now, from the capital to various places, bringing the products of Wang Sheng's businesses was already a brand new way to make money. It was unknown how many assassins in Carefree City specialized in this business. It was safe and stable, and it was profitable. Other than the production bases of these few businesses, there were at least thousands of people who relied on the businesses under Wang Sheng's name to make a living. The Royal Academy of Art attracted the attention of all sides. Now, not to mention the ordinary families with small power, even the major feudal lords were staring at these few places in the capital. Anything that came out of this place could immediately become popular in the entire kingdom. Under such circumstances, it was necessary for the families to station more experts in the capital as a precaution. At the same time, it could also be considered as a training ground like the Ground of Despair or even Carefree City. Right now, Wang Sheng couldn't care less about what the various representatives were thinking. Right now, he could already feel that the spiritual energy of the heaven and earth was already an arrow at the end of its flight. After a brief calculation, it was actually already the 5th day. The advancement of the 3 great consecrators was simply astonishing. When all the spiritual energy disappeared in an instant, Wang Sheng couldn't care less about Mayer and Rosa. He gave the old Taoist a look and directly rushed to the royal box next door. No one stopped Wang Sheng. The moment he entered the door, Wang Sheng shouted at the people inside, "Aren't the 3 of you too exaggerated? It's all thanks to you. We still have to thank the Duke for the reminder." Originally, there were only 5 people in the royal box: the Emperor, the Empress, and the 3 great consecrators. The one who could speak was Chief Stewardly. He was the first to advance and had the deepest comprehension. After Chief Stewardly finished speaking, Steward Zhou and old eunuch Shen also took turns to thank Wang Sheng. Even the Emperor and the Empress expressed their gratitude to Wang Sheng. The 3 great consecrators advanced, and the royal family's strength greatly increased. In the future, they would be able to speak with more authority. Take turns to consolidate your realm. Wang Sheng greeted the emperor. Then, he looked at the 3 young eunuchs and couldn't help but remind them, this is a rare opportunity. If you miss it, there won't be such a good thing anymore. What opportunity? The emperor noticed that there was a hidden meaning in Wang Sheng's words and hurriedly asked, "Right now, there are a group of experts from all sides on the way to the capital. They are not in their own territories." Wang Sheng didn't hide his intention to stir up trouble. He directly said to the people in the royal box, "If something happens to them on the way and we can't find the culprit, now that we return, I will arrange for the 3 consecrators to go into seclusion to consolidate their cultivation." The emperor's eyes lit up and immediately responded. Chapter 1059. Wang Sheng's action was purely a desire to see the world in chaos. Of course, it would be good for Wang Sheng if the feudal vassals were to mess things up. Therefore, Wang Sheng did not hesitate to encourage the royal family to do it. Just as Wang Sheng had said, the opportunity would only come once it was lost. Currently, no one knew that the royal family had 3 such terrifying super experts. With their skills, they could sneakily attack a group of experts who hadn't even reached the peak of the legendary realm. They definitely wouldn't leave any evidence. If something happened to those experts who were on their way here, especially in the territory of another vassal state, they would definitely be suspicious, and it might affect the relationship between them. Remember not to go overboard. 1 or 2 is enough. If it happens too many times, you will be suspected. Wang Sheng saw that the emperor had completely understood his meaning, so he did not stay any longer and turned to leave. However, he did not forget to look back at the door and say, "It will be interesting if the experts of Shanyue accidentally attack the third feudal vassal state." After saying that, Wang Sheng left the royal box without looking back and returned to his own box. The emperor's eyes flickered a few more times because of Wang Sheng's last sentence. When he looked at the 3 great priests, they nodded without hesitation. The 3 old eunuchs were all vicious and merciless people who had fought in the inner court of the palace. They were all crafty and cunning, and their eyes were definitely sharp. They could tell at a glance whether Wang Sheng's idea was useful or not. Speaking of creating chaos, the benefits for Wang Sheng would still be in the future. However, for the imperial family, there were immediate and great benefits. If the various parties were to fight, not only would they weaken their own strength, but the royal family could also step forward to mediate or kick them when they were down. In short, the emperor's prestige would only increase. As for the Shanyue kingdom, the emperor was more than happy to see the kingdom of Qiu and the kingdom of Xia being exhausted by the Shanyue kingdom. However, it seemed that the Shanyue kingdom had a huge advantage now. It would be fun to help them balance out the situation and bring in another country. As soon as Wang Sheng returned to his private room, he heard old Taoist Ling Su's voice. "You're really sarcastic." This time, Wang Sheng came over too suddenly and spoke too quickly. Moreover, he was at the door. No matter how hard the 3 high priests tried to shield themselves, they could not hide their words from the old Taoist Ling Su, who was right next to them. The old Taoist heard them clearly. "Sigh, there's no other way. To survive in the cracks, I can only resort to some tricks." Wang Sheng didn't feel that what he had done was shameful at all. However, he felt a little guilty towards the old Taoist. "Old Taoist, I've let you come into contact with these dark things often. Don't let it affect your Taoist heart." "My Taoist heart can be affected by a few words of yours?" The old Taoist sneered. He ignored Mei and Rosa, who were snickering at the side. He looked at Wang Sheng with disdain and said, "Brat, don't you think too highly of yourself? Forget it." Wang Sheng immediately lowered his head in shame. In front of the old Taoist, he did not have the capital to act tough. Seeing that the old Taoist did not continue, Wang Sheng changed the topic with a smile and praised Mei and Rosa. "Mei and Rosa are both doing well. You've advanced this time. It seems like you've been working hard recently." This time, one of the things that surprised Wang Sheng was that Mei and Rosa had advanced again. Rosa's advancement was not surprising at all. She was cultivating the Yongchun mantra again. With her previous cultivation experience, she only made some slight changes. Her cultivation was twice the result with half the effort. She advanced together with her sisters in the Grandview Garden. This was also within his expectations. However, Mei's advancement was beyond Wang Sheng's expectations. Even the old Taoist Ling Su was shocked. Mei's essence soul was a 5-star phantom spiritual fox. Later, with the royal family's secret technique, it was forcibly upgraded by 1 level and became a 6-star. The old Taoist knew all this. The last time Mei suddenly advanced, it had already surprised the old Taoist. After asking, he found out that it was Wang Sheng who had given her confidence. The old Taoist himself was in the 12th stage. Naturally, he knew what kind of trust was needed to achieve such confidence. With regard to Mei's trust in any of Wang Sheng's words, the old Taoist could not say anything other than to sigh. He thought that advancing once was already the limit. He did not expect that in just a few months, Mei had advanced again. This time, she directly advanced to the 8th stage. She did not speak much, nor did she put on any airs. Just a casual gesture made the old Taoist feel the amazing charm that Mei exuded. It was impossible for the old Taoist not to be surprised. The old Taoist was an expert who had broken through his limit 3 times. Of course, he knew how much perseverance and willpower were needed to achieve each breakthrough. For someone like the old Taoist, who had seen through the ways of the world and wholeheartedly studied Tao and cultivation, to be able to break through in a few decades, it was already an incredible thing in the eyes of outsiders. But how old was Mayer? How deep was her cultivation? She was usually so busy that her feet hardly touched the ground. Where'd she have the time to cultivate? Just like that, relying on the Grand Master's concert, she had broken through from the 6th stage to the 8th stage twice in less than a year. It would be strange if the old Taoist was not surprised. He had been holding back from asking just now. He listened to the movements on Wang Sheng's side. Now that Wang Sheng took the initiative to talk about Mayer's advancement, the old Taoist could not help but ask curiously, "Mayer, isn't your soul at 6 stars?" "We'll talk about this when we get back." Wang Sheng saw the old Taoist posture and knew that the old Taoist wanted to get to the bottom of it. So he directly stopped him. There were many people here, and it was inconvenient. Moreover, there was a big pile of people to arrange now. The Grand Masters who were performing had to be settled. The people from the Laojun Temple had to be sent away. The ladies from the Grandview Garden had to be sent back, and the guards had to follow Wang Sheng back to the residence. This time, it was more than 5 days, and they had not eaten anything. Just the slow recuperation of everyone would need a period of time. When they returned, it would be a mess for a while. At this time, Wang Sheng still gave the emperor and the 3 great reverends that rotten idea. It was obvious that he was using the 3 great reverends with all his might. But since the emperor and the 3 great reverends were willing, then Wang Sheng could not be blamed. Wang Sheng himself had been with the old Taoist for a long time, so he paid attention to his health. The old Taoist did not pursue this question. In fact, the old Taoist himself had broken through 3 times and was very clear about the difficulty of it. He was only surprised, not unable to accept it. Even after returning, the old Taoist did not continue to pursue this question. Everyone's soul cultivation was a secret. The old Taoist would not make the mistake of inquiring about other people's secrets. Just by going back and being busy, the day had passed. Counting it up, a concert basically took up 5 days. There were only 5 days left for the Grand Masters to rest, because the next concert was 5 days later. It seems that there is a need to train a Grand Master who specializes in making nutritious meals for people. In the face of such a situation, Wang Sheng had no choice but to solve the problem himself. Chapter 1060. The head chef of Wang Sheng's residence was someone Wang Sheng had brought with him from Worry-Free City all those years ago. Wang Sheng had personally guided him until now. He was also the best among the chefs in the residence. Usually, he only cooked for Wang Sheng, Mayer, and old Taoist Ling Su. Later on, Rosa was added. In this residence, only these 4 people could make the chief chef cook for them. The others were not qualified at all. However, Wang Sheng also knew that when it came to cooking, the guy who could barely be considered a disciple under his personal guidance was completely qualified. But when it came to making nutritious meals, he was afraid that he was still lacking. For the time being, he could not find a suitable person. Wang Sheng thought that he could only do it himself. Originally, Wang Sheng planned to go to the kitchen to make some porridge, but he suddenly thought of an excellent idea. After giving the order, someone immediately helped Wang Sheng set up a stove in the training room and sent the things that Wang Sheng wanted. Hearing that Wang Sheng had something new, Mayer and Rosa sat in the training room and watched, regardless of their physical fatigue. Even the old Taoist was no exception and refused to leave. In fact, Wang Sheng originally planned to make some nourishing meals for the people around him. They wanted to watch, and Wang Sheng did not refuse. In front of them, he boiled water and washed the rice into the pot, added various supplementary ingredients and seasonings, and slowly cooked the porridge. Everyone did not expect that Wang Sheng only wanted to make porridge. While they were a little surprised, they also began to look forward to it. Wang Sheng had not cooked in Chongqing Duke Mansion for a long time. Presumably, this meal would be different. In fact, Wang Sheng's method was indeed different. He was not only cooking porridge, but he was using the Tai Chi technique to cook porridge. From the moment the rice was put into the pot, Wang Sheng's hands were basically supporting the side of the pot, and the spiritual qi in his body began to be constantly transferred into the pot. The spiritual energy that Wang Sheng transferred included the Tai Chi technique, so the porridge in the pot directly formed a whirlpool that kept spinning. Without stirring with a spoon, it naturally spun and absorbed Wang Sheng's spiritual energy. At the same time, it was also slowly cooked. The old Taoist could see through Wang Sheng's technique. He was also quite interested in Wang Sheng's use of Tai Chi techniques in cooking porridge. The two women couldn't understand, but they could understand Wang Sheng's intentions. This was the porridge that Wang Sheng had personally cooked for them. Not to mention that it smelled very fragrant. Even if it didn't taste very good, the two women would definitely finish it happily. They hadn't eaten water or rice for more than 5 days in a row. When they returned to the residence, they only drank a little water first. At this time, everyone was hungry. Wang Sheng didn't spend too much time. With the addition of his spiritual energy, it only took a total of 10 minutes from the time the water was boiled to the completion. A pot of thick porridge with a rich fragrance was completed. He quickly filled a bowl for everyone, and Wang Sheng finally filled a bowl for himself. Everyone was filled with anticipation. When Wang Sheng was done scooping, they picked up their spoons and fed themselves a mouthful in unison. As soon as a mouthful of thick porridge entered their mouths, the rich fragrance that they smelled when the porridge was cooking filled their mouths. There seemed to be no other taste on their taste buds. After the rich fragrance, there was a smooth and tender feeling. With a slight movement of the tongue, they could feel this unusual taste. It was simply a supreme enjoyment. In the next moment, countless spiritual energy seeped out of the rice and drilled into everyone's body. This spiritual energy was hard and soft, with a balance of yin and yang. It was gentle but tough. It could almost instantly adjust the body that had been tired for a few days and make it very comfortable. In the end, what was passed into the mouth was the feeling of spiritual satisfaction brought by the fragmented rice grains. Wang Sheng's porridge was cooked very skillfully. A part of the rice grains were all shaken into powder by the Tai Chi technique, becoming an indispensable rice paste for the thick porridge. Most of the rice grains retained their complete shape. Not only that, each rice grain had a certain bite point, but as long as it was bitten, it would immediately turn into powder. It absorbed the taste of a lot of seasonings and supplementary ingredients. This time, all the taste was truly released. It could be said that from a moment the porridge entered the mouth to the moment it was swallowed, it was simply enjoying the irresistible, delicious taste and the gentle, nourishing spiritual energy. Even when it was swallowed into the stomach, one could still feel that the warm spiritual energy also entered the stomach, slowly releasing the mildest spiritual energy, bringing warmth to the whole body. It could be said that a mouthful of porridge made everyone feel warm and comfortable. That was all and Rosa felt. However, old Taoist Ling Su was different. He could even feel that his stomach, which had been hungry for a few days, was slowly returning to normal due to the nourishment of the food, spiritual energy, and the Tai Chi mass contained in it. Every mouthful seemed to bring new feelings to the four of them. After entering their stomachs, it seemed that the nourishing effect could be superimposed, and it was simply an unparalleled enjoyment. Everyone slowly savored the bowl of thick porridge. It seemed to be more delicious than any delicacy. After eating, everyone felt a wave of sleepiness. Of course, this was also Wang Sheng's intention. No matter how high one's cultivation was, deep sleep was more effective in maintaining health at times like this. The old Taoist was the first to fully understand Wang Sheng's approach. After drinking it, he directly gave Wang Sheng a thumbs up. If there's a master in cooking porridge, it must be you. Old Taoist, find a few Taoist priests with profound Tai Chi techniques to come to our house and give them some pointers. In the future, there will be a group of masters in Laojun Temple who can maintain health. Wang Sheng smiled at the old Taoist and said, "Ask Qing Ling to come too. Ask him to make a few warm and nourishing herbs that are beneficial to the body. Then, Laojun Temple will be able to provide dietary health to the outside world. Combined with Taoism's way of maintaining health, more people will like Taoism. When old Taoist Ling Su heard the latter part of Wang Sheng's words, his eyes suddenly lit up. He was no longer the cynical old Taoist who couldn't get used to all kinds of things. Of course, he understood how effective Wang Sheng's words were for the promotion of Taoism. He immediately nodded. Okay, I'll train a group of masters later. There were few people in the world who dared to say that they could definitely enter the realm of a great master in a certain industry, but Wang Sheng had no doubt about it. He directly reached the point of training a group of masters. If outsiders knew about it, many people's jaws would be broken. Wang Sheng didn't care so much. Now that everyone was tired, it was time to go back and have a good sleep. What could be more important than sleeping with the two stunning beauties, Mei and Rosa, in his arms? Just as Wang Sheng held Mei and Rosa and closed his eyes, a group of old eunuchs who did odd jobs walked out of an inconspicuous small door in the palace. It was a very common scene, but no one noticed that the three great ministers of the royal family had quietly mingled with the group of old eunuchs and had already left the palace. At the main gate of the palace, there were two little eunuchs guarding the gate at high speed. The three great ministers had just gone into seclusion, so they asked everyone to strengthen their vigilance. Chapter 1061. Something had happened. Two elders from the Dai Kingdom led a team to the capital city to participate in the Grand Master's concert at the Royal Grand Theater. On the way there, they were ambushed and suffered heavy casualties. A total of nearly 100 experts had passed through the Song Kingdom and Sure Kingdom before reaching the capital city. But just as they left the Song Kingdom and entered the Sure Kingdom, something happened. When the problem started, everyone thought it was because they were not acclimatized, so a group of people vomited and had diarrhea. Hence, everyone decided to rest for a night and wait for their companions to feel better before continuing their journey. After all, it was only 2 to 3 days' journey from the capital city, so there was no need to rush. As for the problem of safety, because of the large number of people traveling, the Dai family was used to being tyrannical, so they didn't think that anyone would dare to mess with them. Even if they were just camping in the wilderness, the Dai family was well prepared and well equipped. Once they set up camp, it was like a small village, and it was indeed very safe. But unfortunately, something went wrong when everyone thought there was no problem. At night, the Dai family's campsite was attacked. The attackers' cultivation level wasn't high, but it was enough to kill a few Dai family disciples who were vomiting and having diarrhea. An angry Dai family elder led 4 legendary realm experts and more than 28 stage experts out to chase after them. Then there was no then. None of the people who chased after them returned, including the Dai family elder. After daybreak, the Dai family sent people out to search again. Only then did they find all the Dai family experts' corpses in a valley more than 10 miles away from the campsite. This time, the Dai family's losses made the Dai family elder want to cry, but have no tears. Needless to say, an important elder-level figure, the 4 legendary realm experts were originally planning to rush to the legendary peak, while the 28 stage experts were trying to advance to the legendary realm during the concert. In just one night, more than 30 experts with the most potential among this group of people were completely wiped out. In addition, there were more than 10 disciples who vomited and had diarrhea. Although their cultivation level wasn't high, they were all potential disciples of the Dai family. Similarly, they were all killed in this attack. When the news was sent back to the Dai Kingdom via messenger bird, the king of the Dai Kingdom blew up on the spot. A letter of credence was sent directly to Shurgua, demanding an explanation from him. During the process of spreading the news, the Dai family also found out that the reason why they were vomiting and having diarrhea was because they had been drugged by the water they drank when they passed by a town in Shur country. Because someone had brought a water bag and replenished the water in the well there, the evidence was conclusive. This time, the elders of the Dai nation were infuriated. When the news reached the capital of the Dai nation, the king sent a second letter of credence to Shurgua. Shurgua was the one who felt wronged. When a man sits at home, misfortune comes from heaven. What does it have to do with me, Shurgua, if something happens to your Dai family? What's more, your Dai family drew the water from the well yourself. Who knows if it's a trick? The two families began to exchange words with each other, and the conflict between the two sides escalated rapidly. If not for the Song Nation in between, the two nations might have already started fighting. Of course, the Dai family couldn't risk staying in Shurgua's territory, so they made a turn into the land of thousand devastations and rushed to the capital from there. Wang Sheng received the news half a day after the incident. The elder of the Dai family, who was in the capital, came to discuss it personally. He told Wang Sheng about what had happened to the Dai family on the road. At the same time, he asked Wang Sheng to postpone the date of the concert for a few days so that the Dai family could find another suitable person to send them over. I have no problem with that. Wang Sheng agreed immediately. Those grandmasters had been playing for more than 5 days and hadn't recovered yet. Of course, Wang Sheng didn't mind postponing it for a few days and was happy to watch the show. However, he couldn't let the Dai family benefit so easily. Therefore, he put on a troubled expression. The key is the other families. You have to talk to them. We can't let thousands of experts waste their time here just to wait for your family. The elder of the Dai family knew what to do. As long as Wang Sheng nodded, they had the confidence to make the other families wait. It was nothing more than giving them some benefits. It wouldn't be too difficult. As for the Shur family, it didn't matter. As long as the other families agreed, the Shur family couldn't disagree. Tianzi received the news very quickly. While laughing in his heart, he didn't forget to show his existence. He directly told the Dai family and Shur family to restrain themselves and slowly investigate the matter. Because of the sudden tension between the Dai family and Shur family, the other countries saw an opportunity. Since the Dai family's elder sent them benefits, it would be impolite to refuse. It was just postponing it for a few days, so what? As long as the fire didn't burn their heads, everyone was happy to watch the show. However, it was too early for them to be happy. Just when the Dai family's elder was sending benefits everywhere, something happened to the Tang family on the third morning after the Dai family's incident. However, this time, it wasn't the Tang family's experts who were ambushed. Instead, it was the Tang family city that was attacked. The Tang family suffered heavy losses. Looking at the other party's methods, it was obviously Shanyue country. It was silent, sudden, and unstoppable. After that, it disappeared without a trace. Other than flying mounts, there was no other possibility. Especially in a hidden corner of the city, there was a fresh broken arm. One look, and one could tell that it belonged to those barbarians from Shanyue country. The tattoo on it was decades old. According to the analysis of the broken arm, the owner of the broken arm was at least an 8th degree realm expert. Basically, after discovering the severed arm, coupled with the fact that the exact same attack method had been used in the kingdom of Qiu and the kingdom of Xia, this matter was completely tied to the kingdom of Shanyue. No one could do anything about it. When the news came out, everyone was shocked. Did the people from Shanyue country eat sh*t? When they were fighting against Xia country and Qiu country, they actually dared to provoke the Tang Empire, which was stronger than the other two countries. Could it be because they had the upper hand during this period of time, so they felt that they were invincible and could provoke all the other countries? The Tang Empire had been quietly developing all these years. On the surface, they didn't seem outstanding, but in reality, all the other countries knew that they weren't to be trifled with. Last time, the Tang Empire joined forces with Xia country and Feng country to destroy Victoria's return in the blink of an eye. Everyone still had a lingering fear. Was Baoqin Yutang's Zhu Xingxing brain damaged? He actually dared to touch the Tang Empire at this time? When the news came out, the happiest people weren't Tianzi or Wang Sheng. Instead, it was Qiu country and Xia country that had been suppressed by Shanyue country. Now that Zhu Xingxing was arrogant and dared to touch the Tang Empire, Shanyue country was doomed. Chapter 1062. The Tang Empire wasn't Xia or Qiu. Among all the vassal states, the Tang Empire had the largest territory and the most experts. However, the Tang Empire seemed to be very satisfied with the current situation. They never took the initiative to cause trouble, and they got along well with the surrounding vassal states. He looked like a good person. However, everyone knew that he couldn't be provoked. If they provoked the Tang Empire, They would learn from victorious return's mistake. The experts of the Tang Empire might not show themselves, but once they did, they would definitely be a nightmare for their opponents. But now, Zhu Xingxing of the Shanyu state had actually sent people to attack the Tang Empire. When the Qiu state and Xia learned of the news, the two emperors immediately held a banquet in their palaces to celebrate. Baoqing Yutang had been operating in the Tang Empire for a long time. It was impossible for him not to know that the Tang Empire wasn't to be trifled with. There must be some hidden story behind this. Everyone felt that this was an accident. The biggest possibility was that a flying demonic beast carrying a few experts to attack the Xia kingdom or the Qiu kingdom had flown in the wrong direction, or it had found the wrong target at night. Of course, it was also very likely that when they attacked the Qiu state, they would have to pass through the Tang Empire's territory. It was so dark that they found the wrong target in the middle of the night. There was even another possibility. When the Shanyu state's flying mounts landed in the Tang Empire's territory to rest, they were discovered by the Tang Empire's experts. The Shanyu state wanted to steal one, and a battle broke out. The Shanyu state's experts relied on their flying mounts to loot a city in the Tang Empire. However, regardless of whether it was intentional or an accident, the truth was already set in stone. It was a fact that the Shanyu state attacked a city in the Tang Empire, and the Tang Empire suffered heavy casualties. That was enough. Even if it was an accident, it had already happened. There was no turning back for the Shanyu state. When the news reached the capital, even the emperor was so happy that he drank a few cups. The greater the involvement, the greater the price each party had to pay. The more intense the battle, the more losses each party would suffer. This was only good for the imperial family. When Wang Sheng heard the news in the Chongsheng Duke residence, he couldn't help but admire the methods of the imperial family's three great deities. In such a short amount of time, they were able to find an expert from the Shanyu kingdom to chop off his arm and shift the blame to the Shanyu kingdom. However, after this trip, the three great reverends would probably have to recuperate for a few months. He hadn't had any food or water for more than 5 days, and then he had to make such a hasty trip. He had definitely consumed a lot of energy. From this, it could be seen that the three great consecrators were truly loyal to the royal family. The emperor was lucky to have 3 such loyal subordinates. The next performance was pushed back by 10 days. Other than Shirgua, who was not very happy about it, the other countries nodded happily. However, no matter how unhappy Shirgua was, it was impossible for him to find Wang Sheng and behave atrociously. He could only vent his anger on Daigua. These extra 10 days were enough for the martial grandmasters to recover their energy. Wang Sheng could also make arrangements more leisurely. Just as Wang Sheng was holding a carving knife and carving a simple jade ball in his residence, Steward Wang rushed in to report that an elder of the Divine Might prison had come to visit. The last time someone from the Divine Might prison had come to Wang Sheng's residence, they had come to kill Wang Sheng. They were an assassin organization, and killing was their job. The World Venerate had brought the legendary assassin Bloodsaber with him. The World Venerate had held back the other experts while Bloodsaber had attacked. In the end, he had been blasted to death by Wang Sheng. Later, the World Venerate had chased Wang Sheng to the land of Thousand Despair and questioned Wang Sheng about the cause of Bloodsaber's death. Speaking of which, the relationship between Wang Sheng and the Divine Might prison wasn't very harmonious. Although there wasn't any direct hatred, Wang Sheng had, after all, killed the legendary assassin of the Divine Might prison. When the other party came to visit, Wang Sheng didn't refuse. He went to the guest hall to meet the Divine Might prison's elder who had formally come to pay his respects. "Greetings, Duke." Upon seeing Wang Sheng come out, the Divine Might prison's elder immediately stood up and bowed to greet Wang Sheng. After Wang Sheng returned the greeting, he invited the elder to take a seat. Then, he carefully sized up this old assassin of the Divine Might prison whose name made people tremble in fear. It seemed that this Divine Might prison's elder wasn't eye-catching at all. Wang Sheng firmly believed that if he were to be thrown into a crowd, he would definitely blend into the crowd. One wouldn't be able to tell that he was a super assassin at all. However, The more such a person was, the more terrifying Wang Sheng was, because one couldn't guard against him at all. An assassin style was more straightforward. Hence, this elder didn't waste any time and went straight to the point. Previously, the world venerate and blood saber attacked Duke. It wasn't the divine might prison's intention. The old assassin explained right away. The divine might prison owes someone a huge favor and had no choice but to help. Please forgive us, Duke. May I know who the divine might prison owes a favor to? Wang Sheng asked calmly. He didn't express whether he understood or not, but asked in return. There's nothing that I can't say at this time. The old assassin smiled and replied. It's owner Zhu of the Baoqing Yutang. It wasn't surprising that it was Zhu Xingxing of the Baoqing Yutang. However, what Wang Sheng didn't expect was that Zhu Xingxing had the intention to kill him since then. That shouldn't be the case. Thinking of how much Zhu Xingxing doted on Zhu Xiaodong, Wang Sheng understood. If it wasn't Zhu Xingxing's intention, it might have been Zhu Xiaodong's request. Zhu Xingxing would grant his good-for-nothing son's request. Since Zhu Xingxing didn't like Wang Sheng, it was understandable that Zhu Xingxing got the legendary assassin of the Divine Might Prison to take action. At that time, Baoqing Yutang had businesses all over the world. It wasn't surprising that the Divine Might Prison owed Zhu Xingxing a favor. Assassins were humans too. They had emotions and desires, and it wasn't surprising that they owed Baoqing Yutang a favor. However, Wang Sheng could understand it, but it didn't mean that he could forgive them. After all, the other party had sent a legendary assassin to kill him. If he didn't vent his anger, Wang Sheng wouldn't let it go. In that case, what brings you here today, old mister? Wang Sheng asked casually. The old assassins were wily old foxes. How could they not see the unhappiness in Wang Sheng's heart? However, they had a favor to ask of Wang Sheng this time. Naturally, their attitude was proper, and they didn't dare to show any dissatisfaction. Duke, please spare us a few tickets for the concert. The old assassin smiled and said to Wang Sheng, the Divine Might Prison will be grateful. The Carefree City could get tickets from Wang Sheng every time, but the Divine Might Prison couldn't. In the long run, wouldn't the Divine Might Prison be left far behind? Just a few tickets? Wang Sheng smiled. It's not a big deal. It's easy. How many do you want? I'll spare them for you. The old assassin didn't expect things to go so smoothly. He thought that he would be put in a difficult position, but he was stunned. I wonder how the reputation of the Divine Might Prison is in business. Wang Sheng asked again when the old assassin was stunned. Chapter 1063. What kind of credibility? The old assassin asked hurriedly. It's the credibility of not revealing the name of the client after accepting the business. Wang Sheng asked with a mocking expression. The old assassin had just told Wang Sheng that the client of Wang Sheng's assassination was Baoqing Yutang's Zhu Xingxing. Now, Wang Sheng was asking about the credibility of not revealing the name of the client. This was simply ridicule. However, the old assassin didn't think so. Instead, he answered seriously, our credibility has always been very good. We have never revealed the name of a regular client. Favors don't count. There are some people we don't want to kill, but we have no choice but to do so in order to return the favor. However, this isn't our intention, and it doesn't count as part of our business. The old assassin's words explained his helplessness in revealing Baoqing Yutang's favor. At the same time, he assured Wang Sheng that they would pay attention to serious business. That's good. Wang Sheng smiled. 50 tickets. You don't have to pay. Just kill for me. 50 tickets were worth 5 million gold coins according to the market price. It was a big business, no matter where it was. The old assassin nodded without hesitation. Who do you want to kill? Please tell me, Duke. This is the deposit. Wang Sheng didn't answer directly, but continued. You can get the tickets today. I still have a 100 million gold coin business to take care of. I wonder if you can make the decision. 5 million gold coins was only the deposit. There was still a 100 million gold coin business to be done. Even though the old assassin was someone who had been killing since he was young and was used to big scenes, he was still shocked by Wang Sheng's casual words. Who would need 100 million gold coins to kill? According to the normal price, It would be a matter of a few million gold coins to employ a legendary assassin. How many legendary assassins would it take to earn 100 million gold coins? Duke, can you tell me a little about your target? The old assassin's forehead was already covered in sweat. Who knew that a small matter of tickets would suddenly turn into a business worth 100 million gold coins? An upper echelon of a certain vassal state. Wang Sheng did not mind that the news would be leaked at all. If the elder of the godly might prison could not even keep this little secret, then he would not be able to become an elder. It was no wonder that the upper echelons of the vassal states were here. With such a price tag, even a king could be killed. The old assassin muttered to himself. After thinking for a while, he cautiously replied, "Duke, forgive me for not daring to give you an answer right now. Let us discuss it first before I give you a reply." "All right." Wang Sheng nodded. If it was a normal request, Wang Sheng would definitely satisfy it. However, Wang Sheng added, "If you do, you can take the 100 million gold coins first. Just send me the results after a while." The old assassin sucked in a breath of cold air. Getting the reward first was no longer an ordinary assassination, but a sure kill. There were two rules for an assassin. One was similar to the one in Worry-Free City, where an assassin would offer a bounty to kill someone. If the assassin felt that it was doable, he could kill the person first regardless of the consequences. Then, he would bring the evidence to collect the bounty. The other was to collect the money first and then kill the target regardless of the price. Normally, a business that was worth hundreds of thousands or even millions of gold coins would be offered according to the first method. No one would give the gold coins to the other party first and then wait for the outcome that they did not know when it would be completed. It was the same for a business that was worth hundreds of thousands of gold coins, not to mention a business that was worth hundreds of millions of gold coins. However, Wang Sheng directly put on an attitude of paying the money first. This meant that he wanted the godly might prison to take action regardless of the consequences. From another perspective, he was forcing the assassins of the godly might prison to die. There were only two outcomes. Either the godly might prison would send assassins to kill the other party one after another and obtain the bounty, or all the assassins of the godly might prison would be killed by the other party. There were no other possibilities. Normally, the godly might prison would make an assessment before accepting such a business. If they could do it, they would accept it. If they felt that the losses were too great and it was not worth it, they might as well not accept it. In this aspect, the godly might prison was different from Worry-Free City. Just like what Old Li, who had investigated Wang Sheng's killing methods, had said, the godly might prison only killed those who could be killed. Therefore, the reputation of the godly might prison grew. The old assassin thought for a moment and decided to speak the truth. "Duke, with all due respect, I'm afraid that killing the upper echelons of vassal state won't cost 100 million gold coins. There was a price for killing people outside. Even if the godly might prison guaranteed that they could kill people, the highest price would not be more than 2 times. 100 million gold coins was enough to kill many people. Not just one, but all the upper echelons, including the monarch." Wang Sheng nodded and explained, including their families. "There are at least a few hundred people, big and small. We'll calculate the price by killing each of them. I'm not afraid to tell you that the monarch and upper echelons of Xia country can kill a few experts along the way. You guys can weigh the price yourself." Including the monarch of Xia country. Hearing that it was the Xia country, the old assassin heaved a sigh of relief. After pondering for a moment, he lifted his head and said to Wang Sheng, "Duke, I'm afraid 100 million isn't enough. The assassins of the godly might prison were not that cheap. The Xia country was currently in a terrible predicament because of the Shanyue country. If they were to make a move now, it would be equivalent to them being attacked from both sides. The difficulty of making a move would be much lower, and this business deal could be considered. Name a number. I won't bargain. I'll give you an additional 20% as compensation." Wang Sheng's words made the old assassin choke back all the words he wanted to say. He could not say anything else. In the past few hundred years, none of the customers who had done business with the godly might prison were as generous as Wang Sheng. Name a number. It sounded simple, but it displayed Wang Sheng's domineeringness at any time and place. In front of Wang Sheng, haggling over the price did not even exist. The old assassin understood that even if he offered 10 times the market price, Wang Sheng would definitely agree. Moreover, the old assassin had no doubt that Wang Sheng would definitely be able to afford it. However, if they accepted Wang Sheng's gold coins, everyone in the Godly Might prison would probably not be able to do anything else in a short period of time. This business deal alone would be equivalent to their income for a few years. What was more terrifying was that it would force the Godly Might prison to fight to the death. Duke, I'll go back and discuss it. I'll definitely give you a reply, even if it doesn't work out. The old assassin could no longer sit still and only wanted to leave as soon as possible. If you agree, I can reserve 50 tickets for every concert for the Godly Might prison. Wang Sheng sent the guest off with his tea and did not forget to add another bargaining chip. The old assassin, who had already stood up, trembled again. This time, he did not say anything else. He cupped his hands at Wang Sheng and left in a hurry. The current situation was already very chaotic. Wang Sheng did not mind adding more fuel to the fire. Chapter 1064. After sending off the old killer, Wang Sheng went to look for the old Taoist Ling Su. What's the matter? The old Taoist was trying to figure out the Tai Chi Heart Sutra, which was the real fist that never left his hand. When he saw Wang Sheng come in, he raised his eyelids lazily and asked. Wang Sheng did not hide anything and told him what the old killer had said. Waiting for my opinion. The old Taoist continued to ask as he waved his arms and made some boxing stances. Yes, Wang Sheng answered. What opinion can I have? The old Taoist snorted. They are courting death. Why don't you send them on their way? Why are you asking me? It's not my money. Wang Sheng snickered and said, It's not mine either. Those are the gold coins that the Xia clan used to buy the tickets and methods. The old Taoist rolled his eyes at Wang Sheng again. This guy, he took the gold coins given by others and then went to place a bounty on others. It was only because Wang Sheng was too lazy to fight for anything in the imperial court or the Grand Supreme Elderly Lord Temple. Otherwise, this thick-skinned and black-hearted person would definitely be able to rise to a high position. The old Taoist knew that Aki's brother was schemed against by the Xia family. The old Taoist did not have a good impression of the Xia family. If Wang Sheng wanted to torment them, then let him torment them. Moreover, the old Taoist did not only have a bad impression of the Xia family, but also of all the vassal states. Wang Sheng suddenly said to the old Taoist, Old Taoist, why don't you sneak out for once? Kill who? The old Taoist still asked without looking up. Not kill anyone, but make some trouble. Wang Sheng said casually. The 3 old eunuchs went out to do something and made a lot of noise. If there is no sound in the capital, someone might be suspicious. You want to cause some trouble in the capital? The old Taoist raised his head and looked at Wang Sheng with a smile. Are you planning to make a scene in the palace or somewhere else? Our home. Wang Sheng reached out and pushed the old Taoist's hand. As he pushed, he said, Make some noise on Master Yu's side, and then cause some damage to the Royal Theater. As long as it doesn't affect the performance, it'll be fine. Sure. The old Taoist agreed and continued to push hands with Wang Sheng. That night, there was a commotion at Duke Chongqing's mansion. A group of people wanted to attack the great Grandmaster musicians, but they were repelled by the great Grandmaster musicians and the guards of the Duke's mansion. 3 great Grandmasters were slightly injured, and several courtyards of Duke Chongqing's mansion were damaged. Before the commotion of Duke Chongqing's mansion was over, another piece of news came from outside. Someone was also sabotaging the Royal Theater, but was discovered in time by the guards of the Imperial Guards, so no major damage was caused. However, a corner of the roof was also collapsed. Although it didn't affect the performance, it was really an eyesore. Early the next morning, the Emperor received the news. Although Wang Sheng and the Emperor did not greet each other, the Emperor saw through the mystery in an instant. At that moment, the Emperor immediately pretended to be furious and summoned the representatives of the feudal lords in the capital. At the place where the court officials usually discuss matters, he suppressed his anger and told them about the matter. Then, He closed the door and locked the group of representatives in the main hall. Discuss. The emperor's original words were, discuss and come to a conclusion. Who did it? What do they want? Do you still want to come to the capital to listen to the concert in the future? If this goes on, even I can't live in peace. Who would dare to come? What else could they want to do by going to Duke Chongqing's mansion to make a move on those great grandmasters? Either they wanted to kidnap and take away those great grandmasters, or they wanted to kill and injure them so that the great grandmaster's concert would not be held. What else could be possible? As for making a move on the Royal Theatre, it was obvious that the concert would not be held. If the two were looked at together, it seemed that there would be a result. Now, who didn't want to see the strength of all parties increase the most? It seemed that other than Baoqing Yutang and Shanyu State, there was no other choice. Every family could get a ticket from Wangsheng, and every family could train their own experts. Why wouldn't they be happy? That would be a miracle in the world. Therefore, the only possibility was that Shanyu State wanted to ruin the concert, or even ruin it permanently. This was because the great Grandmaster's concert had always been the best place to train experts. Thousands of experts would break through in one go. Baoqing Yutang had no chance. As time went by, Baoqing Yutang would become weaker and weaker. Therefore, only they had the motive and ability to ruin the concert. The people who attended the meeting were all representatives of the major vassal states. Even if this matter was done by the major vassal states, they could only push the blame to Shanyu State. Who asked Shanyu State to not send a representative? Everyone had a tacit understanding. They just kept putting the blame on Shanyu State. Since Shanyu State had made a move on the Tang Empire, they wouldn't have a future. After everyone cursed at Shanyu State, the emperor took the opportunity to mention that no one was allowed to use force in the capital. This time, no one had any objections. If they really fought here and there, they wouldn't be able to do anything. Since everyone was present, they reached an agreement with the Son of Heaven. In the capital, no one was allowed to use force. Anyone who violated this rule would be punished by the entire world. The rules were even comparable to the inner city of Worry-Free City. At least in the outer city of Worry-Free City, there were still people who dared to make a move. In the capital, as long as it was within the city, anyone who made a move would die. In the past, everyone had a tacit understanding not to make a move in the capital. If they really did make a move, what could they do? Could the imperial family punish them? But it was different now. Whoever dared to make a move would die. Not only could the imperial family punish them, even the major vassal states had to help. It could be said that the capital had become another inner city of Worry-Free City with greater freedom. Of course, there was a slight difference. Whether it was an assassin or a fugitive, as long as they could escape into Worry-Free City, they would be free from being chased. But the capital was different. The capital couldn't hide evil. Therefore, if one was chased, they couldn't escape to the capital. Otherwise, the imperial family would take the initiative to capture or kill them. Perhaps this was the difference between the capital and Worry-Free City. In just half a day, the agreement was finalized. All the representatives signed and confirmed it. After the meeting, the imperial family would announce it to the world. Only when all the representatives signed did the emperor let out a sigh of relief. The goal that the imperial family had been trying to achieve for many years was finally being achieved step by step today. Today's matter was completely led by the emperor. This kind of thing only happened during the enfeoffment ceremony. He believed that similar things would happen more and more in the future. Thinking of Wang Sheng's words about the economic and cultural center, the emperor's heart was burning. Seeing that this was about to become a reality, even the political center in the future might not be an extravagant hope. If all of this could be realized, it would not be impossible for the imperial family to protect Wang Sheng with all their might. Chapter 1065. After the chaos in the capital, order was quickly restored. The concert was successfully postponed for 10 days. Those who had already arrived waited patiently, while those who hadn't arrived on the way. Everything seemed very peaceful, but on the surface of calmness, there was a surging tide hidden beneath. The relationship between the Shi family and the Dai family had fallen to the freezing point. No one knew when they would really fight. The Tang Empire seemed to be concentrating on the concert and had sent experts over, ignoring the attack from Shangyue Kingdom. However, everyone knew that once the concert was over, it would be the day of a large-scale attack on Shangyue Kingdom. Wang Sheng didn't go out for the past 2 days. He just accompanied the old Taoist. The old Taoist wrote some words and practiced some boxing. Wang Sheng also accompanied the old Taoist in writing and practicing boxing. When he was free, he would use a carving knife to carve the smooth jade ball. On the 3rd day after the emperor reached an agreement with all parties, the 3 great priests returned to the capital. Of course, they announced that they had come out of seclusion. Then, the 3 of them went directly to Duke Chongqing's mansion under the guidance of Steward Li. I heard that Duke Chongqing's nourishing porridge is good, so I specially came to have a taste. The 3 old eunuchs didn't look very well, but they didn't show any flaws in front of outsiders. All along, the 3 old eunuchs had been trembling as if they could collapse at any time. No one knew how tough the bodies of the 3 old eunuchs were. These days, Wang Sheng had found a group of Taoist priests who were interested in Tai Chi from the Laojun Temple to train them in making porridge. Even the old Taoist Qingling came to help. This was no longer a secret in Duke Chongqing's mansion, so it wasn't surprising that the emperor knew about it. However, Wang Sheng also knew that this was just an excuse to cover up the fact that the 3 great priests were not in the capital. To make the 3 great priests appear, many people would see them coming to Wang Sheng to ask for porridge immediately after they came out of seclusion. What happened outside had nothing to do with the 3 great priests. Everyone had a tacit understanding. One of the 3 great consecrators stirred up a conflict between the Dai and Shi families, while the other 2 blamed the attack on the Tang family city on Shanyu country. One of them was extremely beneficial to Wang Sheng, although it was also beneficial to the royal family. Wang Sheng had to accept the favor. Wang Sheng personally cooked a pot of taiji nourishing kanji for the 3 great consecrators. After 2 bowls of porridge went down their stomachs, even though the 3 great reverends had already entered the 10th stage realm, they couldn't help but gasped in admiration. This pot of porridge was truly worthy of the word nourishing. Since even the old Taoist Ling Su had to admit to it, the 3 great reverends could not refute it. After finishing the porridge in tacit understanding, the 3 of them had satisfied looks on their faces. They slowly left, putting on airs to let others see the 3 great reverends. At the same time, they did not forget to help Wang Sheng brag about the greatness of Laojuan's nourishing kanji. The kanji that Duke Chongqing personally cooked using Laojuan's nourishing kanji secret skill made one unable to calm down. One must know that almost 99% of the dishes that everyone had been eating for the past few years were cooked from Duke Chongqing's residence. It was incomparably delicious. It might be a little too much to say that Duke Chongqing was the founder of the culinary arts, but he was definitely an improvement grandmaster. If Wang Sheng personally cooked the dishes, not many people in this world would be able to enjoy it. But Laojuan's nourishing kanji would probably be a blessing for everyone in future. In the process of waiting for the concert, a few more things happened. Firstly, Old Tai sent news from the Heavens Workshop. Chiu family seemed to have no intention to buy the heavy sniper crossbow and gave a clear message to Exquisite Pavilion. Thinking about it, it was normal. Spending hundreds of millions of gold coins to buy a heavy sniper crossbow was simply too expensive. Only Wang Sheng could play with it. Whether it was in terms of power or range, only Wang Sheng could truly exert its full power. In addition, the Chiu family planned to use the heavy sniper crossbow to deal with the flying mounts. But since the Tang family had also joined the battle, they didn't have to spend so much effort. They could just hold the current situation and wait for the Tang family's thunderous attack. Why would they waste so much? The Chiu family was lucky. Hearing this news, Wang Sheng didn't think it was a big deal. It was just a small matter that wasn't worth mentioning. The other matter was that the Tang family had come knocking on his door. They wanted to buy the method to enter the land of mountains from Wang Sheng as well. Wang Sheng understood this. Although the Tang family didn't do anything, they were probably going to make a move soon. The Tang family was a big family, and Wang Sheng wasn't afraid of ripping them off. He asked Mayer to communicate with them and sell the method according to the price that the Xia family had offered. The three families probably didn't know that the method that they had spent tens of millions of gold coins on was just a way to take a thorough bath after entering the mountain range. It was that simple. Of course, it was also Wang Sheng's fault. He had trained everyone well in the land of despair and taught them how to survive in the jungle. In an unfamiliar environment, they shouldn't casually take a bath in an unfamiliar place. Therefore, everyone had done the same thing in a mountain range. They didn't know that it was being used by the barbarians in the mountain range. Wang Sheng had already told Mei to make it clear that it would work, but it was definitely a scam. However, if the three families wanted to buy it, how could Wang Sheng not sell it? For the three families, it was more worthwhile to buy it with gold coins than to learn it with human lives. The people from all parties had gathered in the capital, and they had also come to collect their tickets. The people from Xia Kingdom, Tang Kingdom, and Xiu Kingdom had also brought a lot of gold coins, and they were all sent to Wang Sheng's mansion. Just as Wang Sheng had expected, when they heard that Wang Sheng's secret was so simple, the expressions on the faces of the three families were truly fascinating. However, they couldn't hate Wang Sheng at all. Wang Sheng had said that the method was very simple, and they could figure it out as long as they tried it a few times. However, who would be willing to take such a boring test with the lives of their family members? Moreover, not only did Wang Sheng tell them the method, but he also told them the principle and why it was useful. He also promised that they wouldn't be besieged for no reason after they used the method. The gold coins had been paid, and the method had been given. How could they go back on their words? The three families could only sigh that Wang Sheng had made a good deal for them, but they had nothing else to say. After all, the three countries were the most directly threatened by the land of mountains. The other vassal states didn't have such concerns. Didn't they see that they didn't want to buy the method at all? Before the concert at the Royal Grand Theater, Wang Sheng also received a specific answer. After a collective discussion among the Godly Might Prison's upper echelons, they decided to accept Wang Sheng's commission to assassinate the upper echelons of Xia Kingdom, including their family members. They completely agreed to the conditions that they had discussed before. The only change was the price. 250 million gold coins. Faced with the old assassin's offer, Wang Sheng didn't have the slightest intention of bargaining. No problem. As agreed before, I'll give you an additional 20% of the compensation. 300 million gold coins. When will you come to collect it? Chapter 1066. The old assassin had killed many people in his life and had done business with many people. However, he had never met anyone like Wang Sheng. When would he get the 300 million gold coins? How shocking was that? It was 300 million gold coins, not 30 or 300. But in this world, how many people could have such boldness? Many people had talked about the price with the old assassin. 30 or 50,000 would be straightforward. 3 or 500,000 would also be acceptable. However, once it reached 3 or 5 million, they would have to haggle. It would take at least 6 months to negotiate for 30 to 50 million yuan. Otherwise, it would be impossible to negotiate. Even if the negotiation was successful, it would be difficult to pay. How much was the down payment? How much was the middle payment? And how much was the final payment of the heads? It would take at least 3 to 5 years to get the money back. Of course, no one dared to renege on their debt to the Godly Might Prison. However, the Godly Might Prison had nothing to say. Not to mention the scattered clients, even the big families and nobles had never given such a generous deal. The difficulty of killing was not low, but the price had never been so generous. With Wang Sheng, everything was not a problem. Not only did he give them as much as they wanted, he even gave them an additional 20% of the pension. This made them feel grateful. As an assassin, how could they be confident that they could escape unscathed after killing the higher-ups of a country? Someone would definitely die. Duke Changsheng was considerate and even prepared pension. None of the clients in the past would have such an idea. Assassins killed people with their own abilities. If they could not kill people, it was because they were not capable enough. If they were killed, it was because they were not skilled enough. How could they blame others? They still wanted a pension? In their dreams. However, Duke Chongqing was different. He left a way out for the assassins who might fail. At least, he left a way out for the families of the failed assassins. Even if the assassins failed and were killed, there would still be a pension, which would allow the family to live in peace. This kind of incentive was much more practical than simply killing an expert. It also made the assassins go all out. Duke, you were so generous. The godly might prison will not let you down. The old assassin cupped his fists at Wang Sheng and said respectfully, after the concert, I'll let the Duke see the results of our godly might prison's actions. When the time comes, this old man will bring the first batch of heads to the Duke for the gold coins. All right, Wang Sheng cupped his fists in return. I'm looking forward to it. Without another word, the old assassin turned around and left. A job worth 300 million gold coins was enough for the godly might prison to do nothing else for a year or two. This was more than enough. Nobody knew what deal Wang Sheng had made with the godly might prison. After all the forces could only get tickets to the concert from Wang Sheng's residence. No matter what it was that they wanted to discuss, just saying that they were here to ask for tickets was enough to fool anyone. Moreover, there was an even more powerful reason, such as giving them tickets. In any case, any power, whether they had a grudge or not, had a reason to enter Duke Chongqing's residence. It was also because of this that Duke Chongqing's residence seemed to be secretive, but in fact, it was secretive everywhere. Apart from the emperor, who had made the arrangements from the beginning, who could receive some information intermittently, the other forces would not receive any news at all. After all the parties reached an agreement, the capital city was finally at peace. The people from the royal family started to repair the damage to the royal theater quickly. All the parties waited quietly for the concert to start. During the waiting time, they visited Qian Shengyuan and Yiyun. As for the women folk that they brought over, they had already gone to moisturizing workshop and dream workshop, enjoying themselves so much that they forgot about home. The Dai family was finally in a hurry. On the day before the concert, they brought their people to the capital city. They traveled day and night. After a night's sleep, they had to endure the exhaustion of traveling to attend the concert. Fortunately, they knew that the large spiritual energy ball at the concert could nourish their bodies, so they persevered. All the parties entered peacefully. Even in the royal theater, nobody looked like they wanted to cause trouble. The people who entered were all organized. If anyone dared to cause trouble, they would definitely be hated by everyone in the world. Who would dare to cause trouble in such a place? The emperor and the empress continued to bring the three great priests to the box. The emperor was no longer interested in ordinary concerts, but he would definitely attend all the great grandmasters' concerts. Naturally, Wang Sheng also brought Meyer, Rosa, and the old Taoist to the box. Everyone also had a tacit understanding. They quietly watched the people below enter and waited for the concert to start. However, among the many people who entered, there were a few that attracted Wang Sheng's attention. These people actually had a familiar smell on them that Wang Sheng had seen before. Wang Sheng would not have found this smell strange at all if it had appeared in the Yu Mountains. As long as one entered the Yu Mountains, they would pass through a forest, and once they passed through the forest, they would definitely be stained with this smell. The smell that Wang Sheng was familiar with was the magic weapon that the barbarians in the Yu Mountains used to plot against the experts who entered the Yu Mountains. Relying on a group of well-trained monsters with an outstanding sense of smell, they could always accurately know the location of the intruders in advance, and then mobilize a large number of experts to quickly kill them. The method that Wang Sheng had sold to the Xia family, the Qiu family, and the Tang family was to take a thorough bath after passing through the forest. Their clothes were completely discarded, and even their weapons had to be cleaned so that no trace would be left. Only in this way could they hide from the smell of the monsters with sensitive noses. This smell was very familiar to Wang Sheng, and he remembered it very clearly. However, this smell should not have appeared in the capital city. It should have appeared in the Yu Mountains. In particular, this smell was not very strong, as if it had been washed, but it was not thorough enough. Ordinary people would not be able to smell this unique smell, but what kind of nose did Wang Sheng have? His sense of smell had been strengthened by the Taowu transformation, which was hundreds of thousands or even millions of times stronger than that of ordinary people. As long as they were within a certain distance, Wang Sheng could easily distinguish them. Interesting. With this smell, it was obvious that they had entered the Yu Mountains and came out safely. Perhaps only Baoqing Yutang's men could do it so easily. Which force do these people belong to? Wang Sheng asked Rosa. Rosa was in charge of the distribution of all the tickets, so she knew where each clan was located. It was never wrong to ask Rosa. Duke, they're from the Dai family. Rosa looked at the location and those people, then quickly replied to Wang Sheng. The Dai family could enter the Yu Mountains at will? This seemed to be a new discovery. There must be some secrets that others did not know about. The more he thought about it, the more interesting it seemed. Remember the people and the locations I mentioned, and find out their identities, Wang Sheng told Rosa, then pointed out the people who had the smell on them one by one. After the concert, he would tell the Xia family, the Chiu family, and the Tang family about these people, and let them do whatever they wanted. Chapter 1067. At this stage, those who had a deep understanding of the Royal Theatre and the Grand Master's concert all knew that once they entered the Royal Theatre and the music began to play, they shouldn't think about doing anything else to destroy it. As long as they entered that rhythm, everyone would be carried by the torrent of music and the cultivation wills of thousands of people, entering a state of breakthrough. Once a large mass of spiritual energy was formed, it could not be stopped even if they wanted to. If they really wanted to do something, they could only do it before or after the performance began. However, the damage caused at that time would be far less spectacular than destroying a large mass of spiritual energy. Unfortunately, a large mass of spiritual energy could not be destroyed. Therefore, if they did not want to directly face the attacks of thousands of people, it was best not to do anything before or after the performance began. It seemed that the Dai clan was indeed here to listen to the concert in search of a breakthrough. Those people with the smell were very well behaved and even very polite. After Master Yu and the others came out, they stood up and applauded politely. They had no intention of making trouble. However, Wang Sheng was also secretly thankful for his good fortune. If he hadn't asked the emperor to take advantage of this opportunity to stir up some trouble, the three great reverends wouldn't have gone out to kill the Dai family, and the Dai family wouldn't have had to urgently transfer a group of experts who were on the verge of breaking through to the capital after suffering such heavy losses. If the Dai clan had not been in a hurry, they would not have failed to clean up thoroughly, which would have allowed Wang Sheng to discover some clues. One drink and one peck, freedom was decided by the heavens. Previously, Wang Sheng had been wondering how a Baoqing Yutang, even if he had some secret power that he did not show on the surface, could a chain business be so powerful that it could even control Shanhua land in a few years? Now that he had discovered the smell of the Dai clan, Wang Sheng realized that the Dai clan might be involved in this matter. With such a big family like the Dai clan and the secret support of the vassal states, it was possible to control Shanhua land in a few years or more. Wang Sheng even guessed that it was not only a few years, but also a few decades of secret operation. What kind of religion could capture people of all ages in one fell swoop? Even if the barbarians were brainless, they would not be easily bribed by some materials and tools, right? Of course, the most important factor was the number of experts. No matter how powerful a genius was, how could he create hundreds or thousands of legendary realm experts in a short period of a few years? This game of chess that the Dai family played was very big. Wang Sheng pondered in his heart, but his eyes continued to stare at those guys. After thinking for a while, Wang Sheng still went to the private room next door. Only Wang Sheng could come and go as he pleased in the emperor's private room. Anyone else who tried to approach the door would be stopped by the three deacons. Those people from the Dai clan have the scent of the surmounting mountain land on them. Wang Sheng pointed out the abnormality of the Dai family members in a concise and comprehensive manner. I'll have to trouble the three of you to confirm their identities. After the concert ends, I'll send the news to Xia, Qiu, and Tang. The Son of Heaven and the three great consecrators were the most sensitive to this kind of thing. Once they heard it, they realized that there was a problem. Manager Li didn't say anything else. He remembered those people and immediately left the private room to make arrangements. Wang Xing didn't say anything more and went back to his private room to sit. It wasn't until the music started that Wang Xing focused his mind on music and cultivation. The concert of all great grandmasters was originally held for experts who were on the verge of breaking through. Except for the big figures who led the team, the people who came were basically seeds who had hopes of breaking through. Even the big figures who led the team were almost able to break through. In just 3 to 5 songs, there were already hundreds of people on the scene who had entered the spiritual energy tempering state to break through. After a few hours, except for the emperor and the queen, Wang Xing and a few others, almost everyone else began to break through. A huge spiritual energy mass was formed and began to circulate for a few days and nights again. Wang Xing was once again able to sober up and absorb some of the cultivation experience of the Taoist Kanahart technique. However, this was enough for Wang Xing. What Wang Xing really cared about was the cultivation of the 9 secret words formula. With the help of the rhythm of the music, Wang Xing relied on the strengthened sound attack effect of the Qianyu transformation and easily practiced the 6 secret words formula. This time, there were no super experts breaking through. The most powerful one was only advancing to the legendary realm. Therefore, the spiritual energy mass only existed for 3 days and 3 nights, far from the 4 days of the previous round. However, this didn't mean anything. The length of the spiritual energy tempering state was related to everyone's cultivation and the characteristics of their soul. It didn't mean that there were super experts in the previous round, and there weren't any in this round. In addition to the effect of practicing the 6 secret words formula, Wang Xing only received a change in his soul space. The huge tiger fawn saber turned from white to light gray. Although the color was very light, it was still a complete change. It was no longer just a change in the handle. It was obvious that it had advanced a step. After the great grandmasters were carried away, the emperor would definitely be the first to leave. However, before leaving, Manager Li quietly gave Wang Xing a look, letting Wang Xing rest assured. The identities of the Dai family members would soon be sent to Wang Xing's residence. This time, Wang Xing took the initiative to see off the guests. When the Xiao family, Qiu family, and Tang family members passed by, Wang Xing simply exchanged a few words, but it was very clear that they would meet at Duke Chongqing's residence later. The leaders of the 3 families were all astute big shots. They nodded without batting an eyelid and left the theater. At this time, it was time to hurry back to their residence to recuperate and consolidate their cultivation. They couldn't waste their time. This was one of the most important reasons why all parties were willing to reach the agreement with the royal family not to make a move in the capital city. The experts who had just advanced had not slept for several days and nights without eating or drinking. Although their combat power was strong, it was the time to recuperate. It would be too wasteful to make a move. If everyone did not make a move, it would give their experts a chance to consolidate their cultivation. The 3 parties clearly expressed that they had received the hint that Wang Xing made at the entrance of the royal theater. Less than half a day after Wang Xing arrived at Duke Chongqing's residence, the 3 families came one after another in the name of asking for the nourishing porridge from the Laojun temple. At first, Wang Xing did not appear, but waited slowly. Manager Li's side did not disappoint Wang Xing. He came a little later than the 3 families, but the news was still sent quickly. The representatives of the 3 families were slowly enjoying the nourishing porridge from Duke Chongqing's residence, while waiting for Wang Xing's arrival. However, the representatives of the 3 families did not talk to each other. Before Wang Xing arrived, they all seemed to be seriously eating the porridge. Chapter 1068. Everyone, how does it taste? When Wang Xing entered the side hall where the representatives of the 3 parties were, everyone was drinking happily. Wang Xing smiled and asked, "What's the matter? You live up to your reputation." The elder from the Tang family gave him a thumbs up. The two from the Xia family and the Chiu family also nodded repeatedly. Although the porridge was not cooked by Wang Sheng himself, after so many days of training, the old Taoists of the Qing generation could cook it well. Moreover, they could practice Tai Chi techniques while cooking the porridge. It was also a way of cultivation, so everyone was very enthusiastic about it. It was not just one or two old Taoists of the Qing generation who learned Tai Chi. Almost all the old Taoists who had practiced Tai Chi were learning it. It was obvious that this thing could be popularized. It could be used for cultivation, and it could also promote the Taoist concept of keeping in good health. It was definitely worth it for people of the Laojun Taoist temple to learn when they reached a certain level. Even if it was not for others to enjoy, it was also a blessing to drink it. It's good that you like it. Wang Sheng smiled. If you want to drink it in the future, you can ask an expert from the Laojun Taoist temple to cook it for you. You don't have to worry about not being able to drink it. That's great. The third elder of the Xia family responded with a smile. I was worried that I wouldn't be able to enjoy it after drinking it. After chatting for a while, Wang Sheng got to the point. I asked the three of you to come here today because I found something interesting at the concert. Wang Sheng did not keep them in suspense and directly stated his purpose. The three of you bought the method to enter the mountain you land from me. I admit that I made a lot of money, but I guarantee that the method will be effective. Also, the thing I found this time is very interesting. Consider it as an extra gift from me. Although Wang Sheng said that he would give them some of the latest news, he did not say what it was. The representatives of the three families were itching to know, but none of them took the initiative to ask. They knew that Wang Sheng would tell them without asking. I won't hide it from you all. As expected, Wang Sheng started from the beginning. The reason why I can freely enter and exit the grounds of despair without worrying about being attacked by demonic beasts is because when I leveled up, all my senses were strengthened. Everyone should understand this point. The three of them nodded. It was no longer a secret that Wang Sheng had strengthened his senses. It had been spread everywhere. What everyone doesn't know is that my sense of smell is actually very strong. Wang Sheng smiled and continued. It's an unexpected surprise. I didn't know there would be such a good thing, but the strengthening is indeed very powerful. Why did Wang Sheng say all this? The three of them did not understand, so they listened patiently, waiting for Wang Sheng to reveal the answer. For example, from the moment I entered the door, I could smell that after Elder Xia returned from the Grand Theater, there must have been a maidservant serving him. That maidservant was wearing fragrance number 7 perfume from Moisturizer Workshop. Although it was very light, Elder Xia couldn't help but have some of it on him. Wang Sheng smiled and said to Elder Xia. Also, Elder Xia drank a few cups of ergua too. Third Elder Xia looked at Wang Sheng as if he had seen a ghost. The two things Wang Sheng said were all correct. Wang Sheng couldn't have followed them, so he must have smelled it. Elder Tang must have passed by a Ping Kong workshop on his way here. Wang Sheng smiled and turned to Elder Tang. That food street is very famous. Elder Tang must have rested for a while at Huichong restaurant and had some braised food. The chef at Huichong restaurant is my disciple's disciple, and the taste is quite unique. However, Elder Tang hasn't eaten or drunk anything for 3 days and 3 nights, so it's a little inappropriate for him to eat such meat dishes immediately. Elder Tang's eyes widened. He didn't feel anyone following him on his way here. Could it be that Wang Sheng said that he could smell it just by smelling it? Wang Sheng turned to the Chiu family. Elder Chiu smiled bitterly and cupped his hands at Wang Sheng. Duke, we all believe that your sense of smell is very outstanding. There's no need for you to prove anything. Now everyone should know how I discover that method, right? Wang Sheng asked the three of them. The three elders nodded. If Wang Sheng's sense of smell was so outstanding, it would be normal for him to be able to detect something amiss in the U Mountains. After all, no one understood the barbarian's language, so they might not be able to get anything out of him even if they interrogated him. Wang Sheng's own discovery was the most convincing evidence. Over the past few days, I found someone in the Royal Theater with the same smell that I asked you to wash off in the U Mountains. At this point, Wang Sheng didn't waste any more time and directly revealed his discovery. Although the other party had also washed off, it wasn't thorough and I still smelled it. Who was it? The Xia family suffered the most from the Yu Mountains. Upon hearing Wang Sheng's words, third Elder Xia immediately perked up and asked. Although Elder Tang and Elder Qiu didn't appear to be in a hurry, they also looked over and waited for Wang Sheng's answer. I thought you would be able to guess it. Wang Sheng smiled. In fact, it's not hard to guess. There aren't many who left in such a hurry and didn't have time to wash off completely. The Dai family? Wang Sheng's reminder was so obvious, and the three elders weren't stupid. They immediately understood who Wang Sheng was referring to. That's right. Wang Sheng nodded. With a wave of his hand, 3 pieces of paper appeared in his hand. There were a few names written on them, and he distributed them to the 3 elders. Not all of them. Only some of them had the smell. These are the names of those who had the smell. The 3 of them took it and quickly scanned through it. More than a dozen experts all had the surname Dai. The Dai family definitely didn't run away. I know that you might not believe everything I say. You might even think that I provoked you to plot against the Dai family. Wang Sheng smiled and said, however, this is a free piece of information. Consider it a gift from you guys that you spent a lot of money on. I can't guarantee its authenticity, and I won't provide any evidence. If you find it suspicious, then send someone to keep an eye on these people. Maybe there will be something, maybe there won't be anything. It has nothing to do with me. The 3 elders had already put away the papers with the names written on them. They didn't express their opinions when they heard Wang Sheng's words. The 3 families weren't allies now, and they didn't have any agreement to advance or retreat together. Even if they had any thoughts, they wouldn't say it here for others to hear. In any case, there won't be any loss if we investigate carefully. However, if we can really find something, it might be a great benefit. Wang Sheng continued smiling. I only found something amiss. It doesn't have much to do with me. You don't have to inform me what you want to do. The 3 of them looked at each other, but no one said anything. After a while, Elder Tang opened his mouth and asked, Duke, forgive me for being presumptuous, but I have a question to ask. Please. Wang Sheng extended his hand and made an inviting gesture. Logically speaking, Bao Qing Yu Tang hates Duke to the bone. Otherwise, he wouldn't have massacred the village that was related to Duke in the suburbs of the capital. Elder Tang slowly voiced out his doubts. But why did the Shanyue kingdom only target Xia and Qiu kingdom, but not you? Chapter 1069. Elder Tang asked directly. Elder Xia and Elder Qiu seemed very interested in this as well. Both of them looked as though they were watching a show as they waited for Wang Sheng to answer. Speaking of which, it's actually very simple. Wang Sheng looked at Elder Tang and replied with a smile. Elder Tang, you must know how I became enemies with Zhu Xingxing, right? Yes. Elder Tang nodded. It's because of Bao Qing Yu Tang's Zhu Xiaodong. Zhu Xingxing thinks that Zhu Xiaodong's death is because of you, so this is an irreconcilable enmity. It's probably the same reason as the Qiu clan, right? Wang Sheng asked Elder Qiu with a smile. It's because of what happened at the inauguration ceremony of the Imperial Treasury in Tongxing City, right? Elder Qiu nodded. This was something that everyone knew, so there was no need to hide it. Back then, the Qiu clan was pressured by all parties to admit the fact that they had instigated Zhu Xiaodong to make things difficult for Wang Sheng. At that time, the elder who made the decision made a bad move. He could have avoided using conspiracies, but in the end, he was dissatisfied with Wang Sheng and had to spend 200 million gold coins to settle it. Logically speaking, this is an irreconcilable enmity. At this point, Wang Sheng couldn't help but laugh. Elder Tang, if you want to take revenge, will you kill the people around me or myself? Or will you kill someone from a village that I've never seen before? Elder Tang smiled bitterly. Bao Qing Yuhal's Zhu Xingxing had massacred a village on the outskirts of the capital. To them, this matter was indeed a trifling matter. To Wang Sheng, let alone a village. So what if he killed 10 or 100 people? It wasn't Wang Sheng's territory, nor were they Wang Sheng's people. At the end of the day, this was a slap to the emperor's face. If it was Elder Tang, would he care if the Shangyue kingdom killed a few villagers who worked for him in the outskirts of the capital? It was precisely because of this bad move that the Shangyue kingdom was mercilessly rejected by the emperor when they later petitioned the emperor to bestow a title to them. You killed my men, and you want me to bestow you with a title? Zhu Xingxing, how shameless are you? If I were to make a move, I might gather all the experts and wait for you to leave the city for a thunderous strike. Elder Tang wasn't afraid that Wang Sheng would be angry and directly spoke his mind. Whether or not it succeeds is another matter. It's better than venting your anger on a few insignificant pawns. That's right. Wang Sheng clapped his hands and immediately praised. Isn't that what you should do? But look at what Zhu Xingxing did. Well, let's just treat it as Zhu Xingxing's doing. The three of them were stunned. Could it be that there was some hidden story behind this? It wasn't Zhu Xingxing. Could it be the Dai family? It was because we killed all the villagers that the Son of Heaven and I investigated together and discovered the secret of flying mounts. Wang Sheng told the story and pointed at his nose without hesitation. At that time, I relied on my sense of smell to discover something that didn't belong here. So there was such a secret. The three of them who weren't present at that time definitely didn't know about it. At that moment, their confidence in Wang Sheng's sense of smell was strengthened once again. Then, everyone discovered that Baoqin Yutang's men were all gone within a day or two. Wang Sheng continued. After investigating, we found out that an elder from the Xia family was helping Baoqin Yutang to transport goods. Am I right, Elder Xia? That's true. Elder Xia had no choice but to bite the bullet and nod. This matter was actually very infuriating back then, but since Wang Sheng said it, he couldn't deny it. In other words, everyone pushed the mistake to that elder. In fact, it was the fault of the entire upper echelons of Xia. Xia was involved just like that. Wang Xing acted as if he didn't see Elder Xia's red face and continued. Killing a few villagers is a small matter, but because of this, Baoqin Yutang had to evacuate in a hurry. As a result, they weren't fully prepared in the Yu Mountains. When I brought Ancestor Ling, Su, and Aki in, it was like entering an uninhabited land. Wang Sheng said that he was like entering an uninhabited land, but the three families all blushed. All of their men were trapped and didn't come out, especially the Xia family. More than 200 experts were left in the Yu Mountains. Believe me, this is not to ridicule you. Wang Sheng shook his head slightly and said, I'm just telling you a fact. If Baoqin Yutang was fully prepared at that time, I'm afraid we would have fallen into the trap. Think about it carefully. Wang Sheng didn't wait for the three of them to figure out if he was ridiculing them, and quickly said, Zhu Xingxing of Baoqin Yutang was able to manage the Yu Mountains to such an impregnable state in just a few years, and the outsiders didn't even hear a word about it. Yet when he left the capital, he made such a stupid decision to expose himself. Do you believe that Zhu Xingxing suddenly became stupid? Would such a person, who could swallow humiliation for so many years, do such an irrational thing out of hatred? The three of them were attracted by Wang Sheng's words and shook their heads at the same time. Just as Wang Sheng had said, he had swallowed his pride and endured humiliation for the past few years, secretly managing the Yushan land to its current state. Would he make such a foolish mistake when he left the capital? Seeing that the three elders were all in deep thought, Wang Sheng didn't continue immediately. He smiled and slowly drank his tea, waiting for them to figure it out themselves. In fact, they also made a mistake in the Yu Mountains. Wang Sheng waited for the three of them to think about it and continued. I won't say what mistake it was. In short, it was extremely stupid. It allowed me, Ancestor Ling Su, and Aki to easily leave the Yu Mountains and enter the Tang Empire. What kind of brain does Zhu Xingxing have to be to make such a mistake twice in a row? Wang Sheng smiled and asked the three elders a question. After they thought about it for a while, Wang Sheng continued. Unless the person who made the mistake was not Zhu Xingxing himself. Then, who can make decisions on behalf of Zhu Xingxing? Even if he makes such a stupid mistake, he won't be deprived of his command? Wang Sheng immediately threw out another question. In fact, the three of them had an answer in their hearts, But this inference was a bit unbelievable, so the three of them couldn't say it directly. It said that Zhu Xingxing killed his precious son, Zhu Xiaodong. Wang Sheng knew what they were thinking and took the initiative to say it. It's just that this is a legend. Who saw it? The three of them thought about it. It seemed that no one had seen it. The news was all from Bao Qing Yutang. Everyone just expressed understanding of Bao Qing Yutang's past business reputation, so they didn't question it. If my guess is right, Zhu Xiaodong is not dead. Wang Sheng turned to Elder Tang and asked with a smile, "Does this explain Elder Tang's question just now?" Chapter 1070. The biggest hatred between Wang Sheng and Bao Qing Yutang, Zhu Xingxing, came from the so-called hatred of killing his son. If Zhu Xiaodong did not die, then the hatred of killing his son would immediately become the biggest joke in the world. Apart from this, the resentment between Wang Sheng and Bao Qing Yutang was only Zhu Xiaodong's dissatisfaction. There was no way Zhu Xingxing would invest a large number of experts into this matter. As such, the only way to take revenge on Wang Sheng would be through the laughable and pathetic so-called revenge operations that Zhu Xiaodong had arranged. In this way, it was understandable that Shanyu State had been targeting the Qiu family and the Xia family during this period of time, but did not put much effort on Wang Sheng. On the one hand, Wang Sheng was in the land of thousand despair, so it was impossible to find fault with him. On the other hand, it was probably really unnecessary. But if you put it this way, wouldn't my Qiu family also be implicated? Elder Tang's question was answered, and Elder Qiu immediately lost his calm. Why did Bao Qing Yutang not pursue Wang Sheng, but began to pursue the Qiu family? Because I originally planned to cooperate with Bao Qing Yutang for the sake of Mei. Wang Sheng smiled and said to Elder Qiu, "Originally, the wine business of the imperial treasury should belong to Bao Qing Yutang. The wine business of the imperial treasury was now all over the country. From Wuliangye to Finjiu to Erguo to beer, it could be said that it targeted all income classes, and the amount of wine sold every day was enough to make the major vassal states jealous. If this business was less than 3 to 500 million gold coins per year, then the imperial treasury would not operate at all. Such a big business was even more tempting than the refined salt and snow frosting business in the past. Unfortunately, no matter how greedy the major vassal states were, they did not dare to do anything to the business of the imperial treasury, because 30% of this business belonged to the lord of Worry-Free City. The Carefree City was filled with assassins. Which feudal lord would be so bored as to provoke this group of assassins for a few 100 million gold coins? What the Qiu family did back then could be said to be a fruitless endeavor. Not only did they lose 200 million gold coins, they also caused Bao Qing Yutang to lose such a high-level business. If Elder Qiu was Zhu Xingxing, he would also hate the Qiu family to the bone. If it weren't for the Qiu family, not only would the business belong to Bao Qing Yuhao, but Bao Qing Yuhao could still be the number 1 or number 2 big chain business in the kingdom, and the peaceful life could continue. After all, Wang Sheng had expressed his goodwill, and Mayer had also sent the news to Zhu Xingxing, who knew that it would be destroyed by the Qiu family's instigation of Zhu Xiaodong. Then why doesn't he blame his son for being stupid? Elder Qiu scolded angrily. Her own son was stupid and could be manipulated by others, and she actually wanted to vent her anger on the Qiu family? Flies don't bite seamless eggs. If Zhu Xiaodong was wise and had an idea, would the Qiu family have succeeded? There's nothing we can do. Who asked you to be involved? Wang Sheng shrugged his shoulders and spread out his hands. He said helplessly, "You feel wronged, but where can I go to complain? At least you have some connections. Who did my Xia family offend?" Seeing how Wang Sheng and Elder Qiu were trying to shift the blame onto one another, Third Elder Xia sighed and lamented, "We clearly helped them, but in the end, we were dealt a vicious blow." Regardless of whether it was Wang Sheng or the other two elders, when they heard Third Elder Xia's evasive words, they could not help but secretly spit in their hearts. Pretending to be innocent at this time? Who didn't know what they were up to? Was it possible for an elder to cover up Bao Qing Yutang's men from Xia to Shanyu land? However, they were all respectable people and needed to cooperate sincerely to deal with Shanyo land. There was no need to shed all pretense of cordiality on this occasion. How dare you, Xia, complain? In the end, Elder Tang couldn't help but complain. Then wouldn't my Tang Empire be wrong to the point of crying? Who did we offend? The question he asked Wang Sheng just now seemed to be a little too much. Although Wang Sheng explained it patiently and reasonably, Elder Tang intended to ease the atmosphere. While everyone was complaining, he wanted to join in and close the distance between him and Wang Sheng. Of course, Elder Tang's helpless sigh caused everyone to smile bitterly. However, apart from smiling bitterly, everyone had their own plans. The Xia country and the Qiu country had both bought the method to enter the Shanyu land from Wang Sheng. Under the pincer attack of the two countries, they would definitely gain the upper hand. However, at this moment, the Tang clan suddenly charged in as the victim. They did not have to suffer the pain of being attacked earlier and would be able to quickly enjoy the taste of victory. With such a large Shanyu country, even if they were to split it up, the Tang clan would definitely have a share. Even if Wang Sheng knew that the Tang family was indeed involved because of the three great gods, it would be strange if they didn't have any interest in it, since the Tang family was about to launch a large-scale attack. Even if there was nothing, the Tang family would probably put the blame on Shanyu land, let alone an arm of Shanyu land. They were about to reap the harvest and lacked a reason to join. Now that there was an opportunity in front of them, it would be strange if they didn't grab it. Wang Sheng even suspected that if the three great gods didn't take action, the Tang family would direct a self-directed performance so that the Tang family could legitimately get a share of the Shanyu land. One had to know that the Shanyu land was only bordered by Xia, Feng, and Tang. The state of Feng only bordered less than 5 kilometers. Most of it was occupied by Xia and Tang. Last time, Tang had participated in the destruction of Victorious Return and gained a lot of benefits. Now that there was the Shanyu land in front of them, how could they let it go? Don't be fooled by how low-key Tang had always been when it came to national interests. How could they just watch as Xia and Qiu split up the Shanyu land? Did they really think that the Tang family's territory was a free gift? Wang Sheng only mentioned the matter of the Dai family once. After that, Wang Sheng didn't mention it again. The three great gods were the same. When they first heard it, it was as if they hadn't heard it before. None of them said anything related to the Dai family. Everyone's tacit understanding was astonishing. However, Wang Sheng knew that the three countries were definitely paying attention. By the time they returned, the Dai family would be closely monitored by experts by tonight at the latest. There would also be people entering the Shanyu land to investigate. They definitely wouldn't allow the Dai family to stir up trouble and cause the three countries to suffer heavy losses. If they could drag the Dai family down with them while dividing up the Shanyu land, he believed that many vassal states would be willing to step on them at the right time. For example, the state of Song. Because of Dai Huan and Fourth Master Dai, Song Yin couldn't wait to tear down the state of Dai. Chapter 1071. They didn't stay long at Wang Sheng's place. They each brought an old Taoist back to their respective halls in the capital. They announced to the public that they had invited a Taoist from Duke Chongqing's mansion who was good at cooking the Laojun Temple's health porridge to go back and help those masters who had just advanced to take care of their bodies. Previously, the three great high priests had spread the reputation of the Laojun Temple's health porridge. Now, the three kingdoms added fuel to the fire, and the Laojun Temple's health porridge immediately became famous. The emperor also joined in the fun and immediately sent an eunuch to Duke Chongqing's mansion. He also invited a Taoist to the palace to help cook the health porridge. In this way, the other countries couldn't sit still. Was it really that effective? The policy of the major vassal states had always been to have what you have and to have what you don't have. Since these few families invited the old Taoist from the Laojun Temple, the rest of them were no exception. Each family also sent someone to Duke Chongqing's mansion to invite one. As a result, when they returned to their respective halls to taste it, the taste was definitely the best. Just the spiritual qi of Tai Chi was enough to make those who had eaten the health porridge praise it. especially for those experts who had just advanced to the next level and had not eaten or drunk anything for 3 days and 3 nights. It was a timely rain. For a while, drinking Lao Jun Temple's nourishing porridge immediately after listening to the concert had almost become the standard for all parties. Of course, this was also due to the Lao Jun Temple's position of not participating in the world affairs and only focusing on personal cultivation. It was precisely because there was no conflict of interest with all parties, let alone any political demands. They just went out to cultivate while promoting the Taoist health theory, which was welcomed by all parties. Even if it was a master who didn't believe in Taoism, after drinking the health porridge, feeling the nourishment of the body, and listening to the old Taoist explain some of the ways to keep in good health, they would unconsciously slowly accept the Taoist health theory. When the news came back to the Lao Jun Temple, the Grand Abbey Dean's face was as happy as a flower. The promotion of the Tao sect was also like boiling a frog in warm water, imperceptibly and silently infiltrating. One day, these people would accept the Tao sect's theory more and more. Even if they didn't believe in Taoism, at least they wouldn't reject it. The most important point was that the Lao Jun Temple was powerful, and those old Taoists were also very strong. Therefore, the major vassal states would honestly invite people to come to their door, paying incense money and saying good words. If it was a chef with no background, their fate could be imagined. All parties consciously set aside about 10 days to recuperate. During this time, all parties had a tacit understanding to abide by the agreement with the emperor. No one jumped out to cause trouble, which was considered giving the emperor face. 10 days later, all parties finished recuperating and began to leave. During the process of leaving, everyone tried to avoid each other as much as possible. They all had a tacit understanding to avoid fighting each other when they bumped into each other and causing unnecessary trouble. It seemed that all parties were quite restrained. Even when they left, they were very calm. However, this kind of calmness did not last long. Something happened. The Xia family was in trouble. After the Xia family's team left the capital city, they headed straight for the grounds of Thousand Despair. Yang at school, the Xia clan Tian Tt with T-Tot from Clan Daili, they had to pass through Gan to return to Xia from the capital. The Xia family didn't want to repeat the Dai family's mistake. However, under such careful circumstances, the Xia family still met with trouble. When they first entered the land of Thousand Despair, they were ambushed. The attackers were extremely powerful, and there were many experts. They escaped immediately after the attack and didn't stay at the same place. In just one round of attack, the leader of the Xia family's elder and more than 20 experts who had just advanced were beheaded. However, the attackers didn't leave any clues behind. It was clean and neat. Only about half of the newly advanced experts escaped. The rest of the Xia family wanted to cry, but had no tears. When the news reached the capital, all parties expressed deep regret on the surface, but they were all secretly happy. Anyway, as long as other families were unlucky, everyone would be secretly happy for a few days. On the morning after the Xia family's accident, Wang Sheng met the old killer of Godly Might Prison in the guest hall of Duke Chongqing's residence. Congratulations on getting rich. Congratulations on getting rich. When Wang Sheng saw the old killer, he smiled and congratulated him. Thank you, thank you. The old killer smiled like a flower. Wang Sheng congratulated him as soon as they met. Obviously, he already knew about the news outside the city. Of course, it was impossible to hide such an important matter. This is a gift for you, Duke. Please accept it. After greeting Wang Sheng, the old killer didn't waste any time. He put 4 storage rings on the table beside Wang Sheng and pushed them towards Wang Sheng. Wang Sheng took one of the storage rings and checked it with his spiritual qi. He immediately knew what was inside. The 4 storage rings were all heads. They were the heads of the experts of the Xia family who were killed yesterday. However, to Wang Sheng's surprise, there were only 18 heads inside. However, there were clearly 27 people of the Xia family who were killed. The Godly Might Prison wasn't the only one who took action. When the old killer of Godly Might Prison heard Wang Sheng's question, he couldn't help but smile bitterly. There was another group of people who took action at the same time. However, they unexpectedly chose the same time and the same place, which surprised us too. Can you tell how they did it? Wang Sheng's interest was piqued. There was another group of people who took action at the same time. It seemed that Wang Sheng wasn't the only one who took action against the Xia family. It's most likely the carefree city. The old killer didn't hide anything. He stated his judgment directly. We're all in the same line. Only they could choose such a good time. Hearing that it was the people of the carefree city, Wang Sheng wasn't surprised at all. They might have been hired by Aki. Anyway, Wang Sheng had sent tens of millions of gold coins to them. It was normal for the killers of the carefree city to take action against the Xia family. It's good to have someone in the same line. Wang Sheng smiled and waved his hand. He said to the old killer, "This way, you won't be alone. As long as you're satisfied, Duke." The old killer was smiling. No one could tell what he was thinking. Mayor walked out leisurely with a tray in her hands. She walked to the old killer and placed the tray in front of him with both hands. The old killer quickly stood up when Mayor walked out. He bowed and greeted Mayor. "Greetings, madam." After greeting her, he lowered his head to look at the tray. On the tray, there were 300 almost identical storage rings arranged neatly. They looked much better than the 4 different storage rings that the old killer had taken out. Of course, this also showed the financial power of Chongqing Duke's mansion. It wouldn't be a small price to order so many identical storage rings. 300 million gold coins. Wang Sheng gestured to the old killer to check it himself. Chapter 1072. I wouldn't dare. Do I need to check the Duke's gold coins? What a joke. If the old assassin were to check on the spot, it would be a great disgrace to Wang Sheng. How could the 300 million gold coins that Duke Chongqing mentioned be false? The gold coins inside could only be more and not less. If the old assassin couldn't even see through this, he would have lived in vain. Old master, this batch of storage rings is a gift from Duke Chongqing's residence to the godly might prison. Mayor's coquettish voice sounded. She said to the old assassin with a smile, "However, don't let anyone see this batch of storage rings in the short term. You can use them however you want after the commotion dies down." The customization of the storage rings would definitely lead to clues, especially when there were so many storage rings that looked exactly the same. Mayor only reminded him once, and the old assassin naturally agreed to it. He would be a fool not to agree. This storage ring that could hold 1 million gold coins was worth at least 200,000 gold coins. 300 storage rings would be 60 million gold coins. The godly might prison had made a huge profit this time. Not only was there an additional 20% compensation, but there was also an additional storage ring that was worth 60 million gold coins. The old assassin had never had such a generous customer in all his years of doing business. "Thank you, Duke and Madam, for your reward." The old assassin cupped his hands and thanked Wang Sheng and Mayor again. After thinking for a while, he felt embarrassed and said to Wang Sheng, "Duke, some of the heads are just ordinary experts from the Xia family. They're not included in your bounty." "It's okay." Wang Sheng waved his hand and indicated that it was okay. Ordinary experts are counted as well. As long as they are from the Xia family, you can count as much as you want. Deduct it from the 300 million gold coins. Come and find me when the deduction is finished. "Yes, sir." Was there anything the old assassin was unwilling to do? Even ordinary experts were counted as money. This business was getting bigger and bigger. He really didn't know how the Xia family offended the Duke to make him offer such a huge bounty. This time, the Xia family would have to bear the consequences. If anyone else has a bounty on the Xia family's experts, accept it if you can. Wang Sheng added to the old assassin, "It's not a bad idea if you can earn some money with one head. That way, your people will be more motivated." With that said, Wang Sheng pushed the 4 storage rings back to the old assassin with a smile. "If anyone else offers a bounty, sell them to them. Then this old man will take advantage of the Duke's auspicious words and make a few more fortunes." The old assassin smiled so hard that all his wrinkles were squeezed together, and his eyes could hardly be seen. Doing business with Duke Chongqing was really enjoyable. He was simply too generous in everything he bought. It was a pity that they couldn't buy Duke Chongsheng's things. Duke Chongsheng was generous when he bought things, but he was ruthless when he sold things. It was as if he directly pressed the buyer down and let him bleed. The old assassin left happily. Wang Sheng knew that this was not the end, but only the beginning. When the Godly Might prison was fully activated, even the higher-ups of Xia country would have a headache. Wang Sheng had already handed the full map of the core area of the Land of Thousand Despair to Third Elder Xia after he came to deliver the gold coins and resources. It should have been sent back to Xia country through a secret channel by now. On one hand, Xia country had to launch an attack on the Land of Mountains. On the other hand, they had to organize experts to enter the core area of the Land of Thousand Despair. On the other hand, they had to deal with the unpredictable sneak attacks of the Godly Might prison and the Carefree City. They would be busy. Not long after the news of the attack on the Xia family's experts spread, another piece of news was exposed. Before the Martial Master concert at the Royal Theater, the Xia family sold off a batch of their assets. Even a batch of important resources of the family had mysteriously disappeared. No one knew where they were taken. The news was not disclosed by Wang Sheng, nor did it come from the capital city. Instead, it was spread from Xia country. Obviously, there were still Bao Qing Yu Tang spies in Xia country. They might not be good at other analysis, but they were professionals in analyzing the changes in resources. The news that was released asserted that the Xia family must have made some big move recently. Everyone who heard the news immediately realized that it must have something to do with Wang Sheng. The changes in the Xia family's resources were definitely not fake. Besides Wang Sheng, there was probably no one else who could make the Xia family go through so much trouble to raise gold coins. As for what the move was, everyone immediately associated it with the fact that Wang Sheng had stayed in the core area of the Land of Thousand Despair for the past few months. Qian Xingyuan was selling antique weapons from 500 years ago. Some people had already guessed that this batch of weapons had something to do with the advantage of the core area of the Land of Thousand Despair that Gongguo had asked everyone for. Now that the Xia family had made such a big move, it would be a joke if it had nothing to do with the core area of the Land of Thousand Despair. They did not have any designs on Wang Sheng. Although Wang Sheng was greedy for money, and although he had killed many people from all sides, and there would come a day when he would settle the score by cooperating with Wang Sheng, they would not have to worry about Wang Sheng backstabbing them. During the 2 years that Wang Sheng had been with the Shi family and Gan family, Wang Sheng had not revealed anything. Both families had retreated, and Wang Sheng had only sold a batch of antique weapons to Qian Xingyuan. Before this, no one knew what the two families had done. Even now, everyone only knew that the two families had gone into the core area of the Land of Thousand Despair and brought out a batch of items. As for what those items were, it was definitely a batch of antique weapons. As for the rest, no one knew. It was definitely not a simple matter for the Xia family to suddenly spend such a huge sum of money. It would have been fine if the other parties did not know about it. However, since they did, they could not let the Xia family have their way so easily. Moreover, the Xia family was currently facing a sharp attack from an unknown party. With enemies on 3 sides, it was the best time to deal with the Xia family. Just as Wang Sheng had expected, although the other parties would not directly go against the Xia family, they were willing to fork out a sum of gold coins and let the people from the Godly Might prison and the Carefree City help them create trouble for the Xia family. The old killer from the Godly Might prison had accepted at least 5 or 6 jobs recently, all of which were targeted at the Xia family. The old killer followed Wang Sheng's instructions and did not reject anyone. He was not worried about selling one person to many families. As long as the job targeted at the Xia family, he would accept it. The more, the better. The Carefree City was even more eager for the rich to be generous. After all, the Carefree City had offered bounties for all families. However, the bounties for the experts of the Xia family were obviously much higher, even a few times higher. Many killers from the Carefree City were like red-eyed rabbits. They almost ran to Xia country to keep an eye on the experts of Xia country. Currently, the experts of Xia country were no longer normal people. Instead, they were a bunch of walking gold coins. Even the experts from all parties were willing to register as killers in the Carefree City. Then, they would use the identity of a killer from the Carefree City to make a trip to Xia country. In an instant, it was as if the entire Xia nation was in a state of panic. Everyone was in a state of panic. Until now, they still could not understand. Everything had been going according to their plan. How did it turn out like this? Chapter 1073. All of a sudden, the Xia family seemed to have become the target of public criticism. Even the Shangyue kingdom didn't seem to pay much attention to them. The change in the situation was very subtle. It was as if the Xia family, the Qiu family, and the Tang family were preparing to divide up the Shangyue kingdom. Suddenly, the Xia family revealed a fatal weakness. The other two families immediately shifted their attention from their prey to their former companions. The prey was already there, and they were in the process of finding out the truth. They could completely ignore it for now, since it wouldn't run away. However, a companion who revealed a fatal weakness was a delicious meal. Anyone who saw it would feel unbearable. It wasn't just the Qiu family and the Tang family. The surrounding Feng family, Gan family, and even the Song family, who were further away, began to shift their attention here. As for the Dai family and the Shi family, the two families had already begun to fight openly and covertly. Casualties began to appear. Of course, the feudal vassals who were watching the Xia family also swept their eyes over the Dai family and the Shi family. If any family was weak, they definitely wouldn't mind stepping on them. The world suddenly wasn't the same as before. The emperor was still there, and so were the feudal vassals. However, it wasn't the same as before. The emperor's courtyard opposite Wang Sheng's mansion welcomed its owner again. The world was so chaotic, but only the capital and the worryless lands were quiet. There were even fewer people watching over them. The emperor was able to visit the emperor's courtyard again and conveniently invited Wang Sheng and Mei Er to be his guests. Brat, this move of yours is simply amazing. The emperor still followed the old rules and chatted and drank with Steward Zhou in the front courtyard's guest hall. The emperor was in high spirits and drank happily with Wang Sheng. He praised as he drank. Just letting the three great consecrators each make a move was enough to cause chaos in the world. The more losses each side suffered, the happier the emperor's side was. He really wanted them to fight nonstop so that the emperor could finally unify the world. It's just making the best use of the situation. It's not amazing. Wang Sheng drank with the emperor and casually replied. Now, Tianzi had always regarded himself as Mei Er's father. Although he didn't make it clear to Wang Sheng and Mei Er, his behavior was completely natural. Of course, even though he was Mei Er's adoptive father in name, he was still an elder. In front of Wang Sheng had to accept it. Since he had promised to make a promise to Mei Er, Wang Sheng would do everything properly. In the past, when Wang Sheng had some obsessions, he would always think about the girl in his dreams. In his heart, the girl in his dreams was his goddess, and he wanted to marry the girl in his dreams. However, one day he suddenly thought it through. No matter what, even if the girl in his dream was the #1 expert in the world 500 years ago, as Wang Sheng had expected, she was still 500 years older than Wang Sheng. Could Wang Sheng and the girl in his dream really become husband and wife in this world? Such a good situation. How should we take advantage of it? Tianzi suddenly asked after a sound of agreement. For the royal family, the current situation was simply the best opportunity. If they could really do something, just thinking about it made people look forward to it. If you don't want all the feudal vassals to have their eyes on you, it's best not to do anything. Wang Sheng shook his head. If you really feel that you want to do something, then indulge yourself and confuse the opponent. Then, in private, if you need to cultivate, cultivate. If you need to cultivate, cultivate. No matter when, your own strength is fundamental. In fact, Tianzi understood this logic. He just felt that this was a rare opportunity and wanted to do something. When Wang Sheng said this, Tianzi also nodded slowly, but he was a little too anxious. If it's really urgent, then let the three consecrators work harder. Wang Sheng knew Tianzi's thoughts. Once this kind of person with great power had ambition, it would definitely be like a wildfire burning the sky. He didn't want to endure for even a moment. So he casually reminded, as long as you don't leave any traces and don't leave any evidence, it's not impossible to use some martial arts that others can't think of and follow the crowd to stir up more chaos in the situation. When Tianzi heard this, he was overjoyed. He wanted to get some suggestions from Wang Sheng's mouth. It wasn't because of how good Wang Sheng was at scheming, but because of Wang Sheng's big picture view. When they first met, Wang Sheng's few simple methods almost scared Tianzi to the point that his soul almost left his body. On the contrary, the ideas that Wang Sheng gave him were all effective. From the enfeoffment ceremony to the economic and cultural center, he had already seen significant results. Now, the ideas of those strategists in the court, Tianzi sometimes had to think about it. But when Wang Sheng told him, Tianzi almost didn't even think about it and would follow it. It was too simple to let the three great consecrators stir up more chaos in the situation, and it was in line with Tianzi's idea. He did it. By the way, aren't you going to marry Mei Er? Tianzi suddenly changed the topic to Wang Sheng and Mei Er's marriage. Has the date been set? No. Wang Sheng shook his head. Old ancestor Ling Su and the Grandmaster said that they want to look at the date, but they haven't given me a response yet. I have to go back and ask to see what's going on. All right, I'll give you a big gift at that time. Tianzi's face was full of joy, and he didn't hide the look of an old father-in-law looking at his son-in-law. After drinking for a while, Wang Sheng asked Tianzi and Steward Zhou with some curiosity, Your Majesty, Steward Zhou, among the 8 feudal vassals, which one is the strongest? This question was very interesting, and both Tianzi and Steward Zhou were very interested. They had even discussed it in private many times. Hearing Wang Sheng's question, Tianzi nodded at Steward Zhou and let him answer. In terms of territory, the Tang Kingdom is definitely the largest, and the Qiu Kingdom is the smallest. With Tianzi's approval, Steward Zhou didn't hide it and quickly replied, but in terms of the number of experts, the Song Kingdom is the strongest. Song Kingdom? Wang Sheng didn't expect this answer. One must know that when Wang Sheng first came, the Song family was bullied by the Dai family. Even the daughter of the Song family's patriarch was almost kidnapped, and now it actually jumped to the first place? That's right, it's the Song Kingdom. Steward Zhou said with certainty, High Duke Song has brought a few hundred elites of the Song family into the land of Thousand Despair. They have lived in the land of Thousand Despair for a whole decade and have accumulated a lot of experience. Now, these few hundred elites are all at the peak or late stage of the legendary realm. Wang Sheng clearly remembered that when Song Honda came out of the land of Thousand Despair, there were only a few dozen elite experts who had just entered the 9th stage. Sure enough, cultivation seemed to suddenly become easier, and hundreds of them all advanced to the peak or late stage of the legend realm. The effect was simply amazing. At the mention of Song country, Song Yan's beautiful face flashed before Wang Sheng's eyes. Her valiant and heroic figure, as well as her domineering demeanor of a queen, fiercely pushing him down and then forcing herself on him. Suddenly, Wang Sheng felt that marrying Mei was a little unfair to Song Yan. You're tuning into the Warrior Lore YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.